Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Frame Trap. It's episode 100.
100!
And joining me to celebrate this very special occasion is Kyle Bossman.
Congratulations, Ben.
Well, thank you. And Michael Damiani.
Congratulations as well.
Well, thank you. I just want to start this episode off. Normally, we have a little bit of chit-chat. We shoot the breeze a little bit. I ask you about holidays or life or video games, but this time, I just want to open up the show by saying thank you. When I started in this industry, I thought I was just going to be somebody that like no one ever saw, just write stuff, just write reviews and put them up, because that was what I thought my job was going to be. That's what I was hired for.
Yeah.
And thanks to Game Trailers and Easy Allies, I've had the opportunity to get on camera, to host a show, to put on a podcast, and to have a lot of hours of conversations about video games with you guys and all of the other allies. And so it's just great to be in a place where a show like this can happen and it can evolve. And I don't know, it's made me very grateful. And so thank you to you guys. Thank you especially to the audience. I know this is like Frame Trap. If you were to combine all the hours, I'm actually curious how much time that is.
Oh.
Probably like 1,000 hours.
I wonder if Frame Trap in 100 episodes has done what the Easy Allies podcast has done in 200.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see.
I wonder how they match up.
Did they start at exactly the same time?
Close to, right?
Close
it must have
to?
been that first
Yeah.
week. It must
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
that first week.
Somebody had a really good idea, but it's just actually not possible, which shows how I saw a comment and they were like, for episode 100, you should shoot it in your apartment with the wall scrolls again.
Yeah.
I don't live in that apartment anymore.
Damiani does?
Damiani does. That's true. We could have done that.
Yeah.
Maybe episode 200.
Yeah, episode
we'll
200.
think about that.
Yeah.
But I actually do have some really exciting news. I can't believe this has happened. I've gotten some testimonials from unexpected fans of Frame Trap, and I thought I would just intersperse them throughout the show.
Oh, please.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never would have thought that these people would be fans of Frame Trap, and so I'm just really honored to share them with you and with the audience.
Oh, that's cool. That's really nice.
Our first one comes in from Sir Patrick Stewart.
Sure. Yeah.
He says,
Picard is just out
Wow.
right now. Yeah.
he said, yeah,
Wow.
Picard. He might be doing
Jean-Luc.
He might be doing a little bit of a plug
Yeah.
for his new show. Yeah. He says, the enthusiasm and raw energy of the HOTTAKE gives me the energy to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Wow, and he hates doing stuff like that.
I know he hates doing
being
stuff.
Yeah.
Star. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool that he said
You know,
that.
it's almost like he didn't write that, but
Almost like that,
Almost
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I don't believe it. I believe he wrote it.
That's so sweet.
It is very sweet. So thank you to Sir Patrick Stewart for taking time out of your life. Legendary performer to take time out of your life to talk about. We actually have testimonials from other people as well. I'll intersperse them.
It's a good idea.
Throughout the show. But you both have brought some interesting stuff for Frame Trap. Kyle, I want to get started with you.
Okay.
Kind of the new hotness right now, and I didn't know you'd been playing it outside of that little stream that didn't go too well, is Temtem.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. That stream did go well. We just had to end early.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yes.
It was cut short, I guess is a better way to say it.
But my feeling on Temtem is that it leaves a great first impression.
Really?
Yes. So we were playing it off Damiani's Steam account, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I decided to spend my $35 to get my own little Temtem playthrough going.
And this is really remarkable to me because I feel
Yeah.
like out of anyone, you would be the hardest on something like Temtem.
That's what happened.
Okay.
That's what has
Okay.
come
Okay,
to,
'cause
that is what has come to fruition.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering that, Kyle,
Yes.
because you had that reaction. You were having such a good time with when it was isolated
character creator,
single player and all that,
yeah,
and then
so
as soon as you saw character names pop above everyone's head, you
So
were
is
like,
that it?
And people running around. It's part of it. It's part of it. So Temtem, is a Pokemon clone. It doesn't earn anything other than that phrase. You know,
Sure.
it is a Pokemon clone for sure.
And I don't think it's shying away from that to
Yes.
its credit.
Yeah. And another thing, I actually really liked the battle system a little bit because it has this interesting thing of stamina. And so you don't have access to your best moves at the beginning of a match. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh,
Basically, your stamina raises each turn.
okay.
And also, your stamina depletes quickly. And so if you are using your best moves, you can't just do it over and over and over and over. You'll have
Right.
to take some turns to rest if you want to use your best moves over and over.
As somebody who hasn't taken the plunge yet on Temtem, do they utilize that in interesting ways where it's like, oh, I want to put the enemy in this state and then use a best move? Are there any setups or any combinations like that?
Maybe late game.
Okay.
I didn't even get to the first gym.
Okay.
I was right at knocking on the door of the first gym.
And are they gyms?
No. It was called something else, but it's
basically
it is
a
a gym. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was listening to a little bit of Giant Bomb's coverage, and it seems like you do a lot of 2-on-2 battles.
Yes.
Okay.
You do a lot of 2-on-2 battles. You do a lot of even like random Pokemon you run into. Sorry, Temtems. Random Temtems you run into. Those are duels, and then you also have trainer battles that'll be duels too. Tamer battles, excuse me. You got to use the right terminology.
Well, one thing that Giant Bomb mentioned that I was like, oh God, I wouldn't. I still struggle sometimes with Pokemon being like, wait, what is that weak to again? And isn't it completely different in Temtem?
Kind of, but also there's still fire is weak to water.
Okay, so there's still the basic fundamental stuff. Okay,
yeah, so they still have that, but yeah, exactly. Like there was something that looked like a fighting type, and I'm like, oh, I got a flying type. I'm going to use my flying type move. Oh, it's grass. It's like flying versus grass. I got this, and it's like I'm like, okay, Temtem. You got your own rules, okay, Temtem. I guess I'll learn those later on. The game is about managing your stamina. And so that is the battle system, and that's what I liked. I was really into that. Your stamina fills up again or goes to the same spot at the end of every match. So you walk in and your stamina is replenished or whatever. What isn't replenished is your HP. And this is where I got a thorn in my side. So, HP, you're going to get hit. In Temtem, you're going to get hit. There's 2 Temtems hitting your 1 or 2. They're going to get hit.
Right.
And so you're going to need potions, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Salves in this game. They're very expensive. The money doesn't come in fast, and you can spend your money on basic potions really quickly. Here's what happened. Oh, boy. So I lost a match. Lost a Temtem match. Lost $111. You know what 2 potions would cost? $160. Yeah, right, Temtem. In this game, it is more economically sound for me to lose a match than to win the match and heal my Temtems.
Well, is there not a Pokemon Center equivalent?
There is. And so I think that's it, Ben. That's where I'm like, okay, I get what you're doing, Temtem.
Right.
And maybe this is an MMO thing. This game is about grinding.
Yeah.
This game says, go back and grind some more.
They want you to take it slow.
Yeah. And I do think that's it. I do think that you're supposed to be out-level the opponents that you're up against. At least at this early point. I'm sure at endgame, everybody's the same level and things like that.
Is maybe part of the reason why the economy is the way it is and just the balance of the battles is the way it is? Are you supposed to interact with and team up with other players since they're around? Or does it not work that way?
No, I bet it does. I bet you're right. And also, I realized this morning when I was thinking about Temtem, it's also because I wanted to raise 2 Temtem and focus on them. I didn't like the other Temtems I'm looking at. I think that if I had a full party of 6, I obviously would not have lost that battle. And obviously you don't have to heal everyone because like, okay, I'll send you to the back. I'll have these 2 up front.
So this is not a game that is friendly to stubbornness.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
And it is friendly to, I think, people who like a certain aspect of Pokemon. Because it is very basic in its world design. It's very basic in its structure. It doesn't do much to get you invested in this journey. It kind of assumes that you're excited to be on this journey. The characters all seem randomly generated. All the NPCs, they do have different faces at least, but it just seems randomized. They have a name, and sometimes they'll have dialogue even, which is cool. They're like, hey, I have a crush on that girl over there. It's like, okay, buddy, let's battle. And he's like, okay. But that buddy doesn't really seem like a guy because he does seem like a randomized character as opposed to, like, the adults have more definition in their faces and do seem more different.
I think the thing that has been hard for me with Temtem, where it's more of a curiosity than like oh my gosh, I have to play this right now, and something that draws me to Pokemon is both the monster design and the character design. Like there are just some creatures in Pokemon where it's like, I just want to interact with this. I want to capture this. I want to play with this.
Yeah.
Or like gym leaders I'm excited to battle just because they have so much personality.
Yeah.
And Temtem has not grabbed me. It has not given me that first impression where it's like, oh, like I feel like I'm interested in more of like a practical sense as opposed to like an emotional sense, if that makes sense. Whereas Pokemon's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that none of the starters are little cuties. They don't have a little cutie. I haven't seen a little cutie yet. I've seen probably 20 Temtems. Not a single cutie.
Yeah, it feels like that was always going to be one of the biggest struggles with this game.
Sure.
Is that you can look back at the past like almost 2.5 decades of Pokemon and really break down what it would take to make like a competitor on paper. But like those designs, some of those are so timeless, like that they perfected a lot of those and like they know what they're doing. It's not that easy to come up with cute and cuddly looking things. And I think no matter how good, like even that stamina system, as cool as it seemed, and like you were saying, it felt like it was kind of forcing you to, not forcing, but nudging you a little bit more, like stop doing the brute force strategy that Pokemon like lets you get away with. Like actually make a team, like play this the way it's supposed to be made. But at the same time, if you don't care about your 6 Pokemon, it's like, not really. I can't get invested in this. It's hard.
That's what that was, right?
Yeah.
I could have succeeded if I had 6 Temtems, but I don't want those Temtems.
Right. You don't care enough to put in the effort to get to that point.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Pokemon, especially last year, right, fell under a lot of criticism, and rightfully so. And there were a lot of things that I was disappointed in Sword and Shield. But I think that's the thing that is kind of taken for granted is that it's almost impossible to articulate the kind of charm and craft of the world and characters. Like we're just so used to it by now. But I mean, like there's magic there. There's a reason why they captivated the world. There's something that they're doing that just gives it a warmth that you want to be in. Yeah. And if you don't have that warmth, it's really difficult.
There is one super cutie actually I forgot about.
One super cutie. What's the name?
The Platypus.
Okay.
So the Platypus was a fake Pokemon that was like spread as like a rumor, right? Like, oh, these are the new Pokemon. And there was a water type Platypus that was a super cutie. And then people grew attached to that Platypus even after we all learned that was fake. Yeah. So they actually contacted that artist and put that Pokemon in this game.
That's cool.
Very smart.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That is they all should be that. They all should, I don't want to knock somebody's creative work, right? Like there was a creative artist who made a lot of designs. Yeah. They're worse than Neopets to me.
Oh boy.
I'd rather have like a little I'd switch out the Temtems for Neopets and I would play this game.
Kyle, that was a hard journey to go on with you because you said you didn't want to knock it, and then I feel
did,
like that was
really knocked
I feel like that was the hardest knock.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, that's my opinion. I'm sure the creative artist who like drew all these things is having a great week.
Well, and it's not like Temtem isn't doing well,
exactly.
Right? Like it's clearly resonating with people on some level.
Ignore me. Ignore my criticism.
But the sense that I get from Temtem, and I don't actually know this, this is just pure speculation on my part, is that these people are obviously gigantic fans of Pokemon and were maybe frustrated by certain things and just kind of like made the game that they wanted to see. And I dig that. I feel like we've been getting a lot of that with different genres and different types of games, and it's pretty much for the most part been a very beneficial thing. That there's space for people to do that they can come out here and make a Pokemon competitor and have like the queues be so high because so many people want to play it. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it's funny. It's so Pokemon's Big Boss, right? And Temtem, I think, takes the recessive genes. Temtem is Liquid Snake. I'm ready to play Solid Snake.
Well, Solid Snake has the recessive genes.
It turns out you're right.
Yeah.
It turns out he was the weaker brother. You're right, Ben. That's good. That's very good knowledge.
Yeah.
So they took out the things that like I'm not interested in.
Right.
They made the Pokemon game, and understand people who are interested in these things, but no, I still want that game with the right analog stick, you know. And these environments are just so flat.
Yeah. It definitely had that vibe as well. I'm more interested in how this game, the sustainability plan they have for the content updates in terms of like playing with other people. Like it's obviously in the early goings, it's probably be fun just to like see all these new Temtem, try them out fighting against each other, other player versus player battles, which I'm assuming you can even do from like I don't know even when you can start doing them.
Right. I did not try.
But like I'm assuming they're at a low level, but like what is it going to be building up to? I know about that end game area where you can fight like bigger things, but like they have to have something beyond that. And I'm kind of curious what they're going to do.
Sure. It's the breeding system. And I do believe they're introducing new Temtem on a regular basis.
Did they? What was the thing that the early access said? Like they introduced a new area as well.
Oh,
or,
sure. So there's parts
okay.
of this map that are it's cute. It just says work in progress, and so there'll be a path there that's just got a board over it or a building
That's
that
what
says
it is.
WIP.
Okay.
And so yeah, it's clearly early access.
So like new zones and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
The idea of new creatures being trickled in is interesting, as opposed to waiting for a new game and a new region and a whole batch. That I don't know. That's an interesting difference. I hope that Temtem ends up being kind of like a Stardew Valley, where I feel like the creator and the community were very much in sync with each other, and that game managed to have like a pretty gripping relevance for years, and still has a lot of relevance.
I think he announced 10 million this week.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a huge success.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Temtem could. I think Temtem could hit 10.
What gives you that confidence?
Well, shoot. We just learned that Pokemon Sword and Shield did 16 mil. It's hard to say that it could do 10. Yeah, it's hard to say it could reach that. You're right. Maybe 10 was ridiculous. But there's enough Pokemon fans who are unhappy with Sword and Shield who I think would love this game.
Yeah, I think they just need to play into stuff that people wanted to see for a while that they've never seen in a proper Pokemon game.
Yeah.
I mean, and really lean into like a different type of multiplayer experience besides I feel like the key is also going to be finding another way beyond just like battling people in like just like the traditional sense. Like think about like gym, like the whole concept of what they call academies or something in here, like schools or whatever their gym.
I got to the
equivalent
academia and it was just a building that you have to leave.
Whatever their equivalent of gyms in. How cool would it be if each week someone who was the winner of that became like the gym leader for that week?
Sure.
And now you're like in charge of that gym for a week.
That's
like stuff like that.
That's pretty much how Pokemon Go works.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you go and you hole up in a gym and you own it. It's interesting how timing affects things so much. It's not like Pokemon Sword and Shield were immense successes. I don't want to say that they aren't, but obviously just there has been some disappointment with Pokemon, and I wonder if like Pokemon Sword and Shield were the most beloved entries of all time, if Temtem would be getting the attention that it is.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock against Temtem. It's just funny how things work out.
Yeah.
Finding the right moment.
I'm also curious whether it's that or how much of it is that there's just such a huge craving for anything that's Pokemon-like.
Yeah.
Like there's just stuff left on the table there that like Pokemon proper never capitalized on.
And we haven't seen these since like Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Right. People have stopped trying to clone Pokemon a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like people have been asking for a online Pokemon game in this vein for decades. So
Yeah, and that's it. I think if you ever played Pokemon and it was just to be the best kid on the bus, this is the game. It's like if that was the part of Pokemon you really cared about is the battling other people, you got this game now.
that reminds me of have you heard of the different types of Magic the Gathering players?
No.
I think there should be one. There might be for different types of Pokemon players. So like one of the types of Magic players is just like doesn't care about winning, like may lose pretty often, but just wants to play that big creature, wants to put that giant thing on the board and smash you with it.
Yes, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Someone should do that for Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think part of the hesitation that I have with Temtem, Kyle, is just time.
Yeah. It's another MMO.
Right.
The game wants you to grind.
Right. On like one hand, it's cool that this exists, and I've wanted something like this before, but just at this point in time, it's like you saying like, hey, you need to grind, and it's slow and it takes a lot of time. I don't know. It seems like a commitment that I'm hesitant to make at this moment.
This is something I really would have wanted 10 years ago.
When you had more time to
I feel like that's when like everyone was asking, hey, Nintendo, make like a Pokemon MMO. And now it feels like maybe younger people have a little bit more time, or whoever has more time, like it speaks to them more, where it's like, that was such a pipe dream and it's nice to sample it, but seeing yourself getting invested in the long term, it's just like, I really can't do that, can I?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it also has the issue of being like, well, maybe if I wait a year, it'll be way better. And like, that'll be the perfect point to jump in. So why jump in now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Michael Damiani, you just recently told me, and by recently I mean before the show, told me that you had your very first experience with The Witcher And it was the TV show.
Oh.
Yeah. I see that.
A few weeks ago, I also finished the show, and I ended up liking it. I have like some minor complaints, but for the most part, I liked it. And when I was talking about it on Frame Trap before, I talked about it after the first episode, and I think I gave a poor impression of what the quality of that show, because it got much better from there. But now I've seen all of it, and you've seen all of it, and besides the show itself, since this is your first experience with the Witcher universe in any capacity, did it make you more interested in the fiction of The Witcher?
It made me more interested in the fiction. Like, I can't wait for season 2. The one thing I'll say, it has not made me want to take the extra step of, like, because Huber, when he heard about this, he was like, so, makes you want to play The Witcher now, huh? I'm like, I don't know if it really makes me want to play it, because I kind of enjoy experiencing this more passive medium right now. Like, what I saw in the series, I enjoyed it. And I think it ended with enough, giving me enough answers, but leaving me with enough questions about, like, how characters and the universe, like the world building itself. And I was very impressed, honestly. I didn't have a lot of preconceptions going into it. I think the most I had was about maybe Geralt. I've seen so much, like, obviously covering game stuff, like, he's just been all over the place, and all the trailers I'd seen, it's like, okay, I have some generalizations about this. They might be wrong, they might be right. And going into it, I was surprised by how much, like, none of this was, like, actually right. It was, like, completely different. Just a simple thing of, like, what's a witcher and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, is this person who goes and, like, hunts, like, witches? Or, like, then I was like, wasn't there a title called Assassin Kings? Like, is he just, like, an assassin, a paid assassin who's, like, works in the shadows or something?
So you thought that for the last 3 years, while people were praising The Witcher 3?
Yeah.
You thought it's just some guy who kills witches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, just, like,
Wait a minute.
But
You think this is the most absurd thing ever?
I do.
Is it the most absurd thing ever?
I mean, I would rather play that game where I'm just a witch assassin. Heck yeah.
Over The Witcher 3?
Yes.
Why is that?
More focused.
More focused.
Yes.
is this a criticism of the games or something
yeah.
you're making?
Though
Yeah.
he is called a witcher and is not a witch hunter, he is still very focused. He's kills monsters, and he's very adamant about that.
No. I gotta listen to this bloody baron tell his story. Nuh-uh.
Right. Well, you also find out that Geralt has things that he is personally invested in and
Right.
seeks after. But
I
fundamentally,
simply want to assassinate witches.
Okay. There you go. You're
Yeah.
gonna make.
Here
the
it comes.
Temtem of The Witcher.
Yes.
And
I
you're
am.
gonna be.
Right, that's the liquid snake just taking the wrong things out of it. Yeah.
Sorry,
it's interesting to hear that
Yeah.
though, Kyle. That you view it like that. I mean, it was cool. Obviously, I'd seen the trailer for the show, so I knew he killed like supernatural beings and stuff like that. So I had that, but I really like the world. I liked how they depicted magic in that world. It didn't feel. It had a nice sense of being like. It felt like it could be believable. It wasn't too exceptionally fantastical. Except for maybe one or two parts where like certain things happened I don't want to spoil. I was like, okay, that was like really awesome, but like that was also very fantasy looking and stuff. But for the general part, even like Geralt stuff, like the force push stuff, I was like, felt very like I liked it. I liked how it looked, and I liked how despite Geralt being viewed as like a badass, there was parts where his life felt threatened and stuff. So he wasn't like all powerful, like he could just easily beat anything. But it's like an average person, they're like, oh, dude, don't mess with him. But there were still characters, humans who were like, I'll take you on stuff, no problem. Right. That opening fight, the fight sequence in the village in episode 1.
The Butcher of Blaviken.
Yes. Was like, I love that sequence. Like, to me, I was like, okay, I know a lot about this character, and at the same time, I have so many questions, and I like this. I found there were like faults. The first episode was okay, I thought. I liked what I saw about Geralt, but I wasn't liking anything else about the episode at first, actually.
Episode 1?
Episode 1, sorry.
Yeah.
I felt it was a little rough with everything else. And
What was interesting about episode 1 is it felt like it was a lot of exposition before we were able to get invested. And where I started, and I don't know if you felt this way, but where I started to really come around on the show and where it started to get more focus for me was with Yennefer's story
Yep.
and getting to
Yep.
see that pretty much from the beginning and having her kind of be this emotional anchor for the show. She was one of my favorite characters throughout the whole thing, and then how her relationship happens with Geralt, I thought was awesome.
Absolutely loved Yennefer. I mean, knew nothing. I didn't even know like Yennefer. I've heard you in the like halls and stuff talk about like The Witcher and mention Yennefer
Right.
and stuff, Yen or
Lilac
whatever.
and
It's like
gooseberry,
I was like,
yeah.
okay, and now like getting to know this character is like, this is a really good character. I love this, and I was very heavily invested in them in the show, and like can't wait to see more of them in the second season. I think honestly, she might have outdone Geralt for me. Like they were very close, but I think she was the character I was the most invested in and enjoyed watching them develop over the course of the season 1.
Yeah, they kind of tease it at the end of the season, like about Geralt's path to becoming a Witcher and his relationship with Vesemir. So I'm interested to see how that ends up playing out in the future. But yeah, Yennefer was really, really good. And you mentioned how they portrayed magic. I loved how active mages were in shaping the identity of the different places where they were established, and then like coming together and just being like, okay, well, we need to fix this place, and so you got to go there, and just using them kind of as political tools. I thought was really
Yeah, because you always see like the old version, like the most famous versions, like there's always like that guiding mage who's like helping the king whatever rule his kingdom and stuff, and that's like kind of what they're doing. But like the council and stuff, like we get to decide who gets this assignment here. What are our objectives? And like the council of like witches, and like I'll be the first to admit, it kind of felt like the same thing when I went into Game of Thrones, which I also was first introduced to the show before I dove into the books later on. A lot of the terminology and like proper nouns, I'm still coming, like I'm not as familiar with them yet. So like if I get this wrong, I do apologize. But like the whole thing about like chaos, like controlling chaos, but then like letting chaos go to like fuel your magic and stuff. Like I kind of like that. It was like the whole, I mean, it was kind of like a rip on the Force, like, oh, keep it in balance stuff. But then like Yennefer, like, no, like, unleash it, and you can be really powerful, but it's like very dangerous and stuff. But them talking about it, also their system was so kind of messed up.
Oh, extremely messed up.
Just the whole thing, like, we're kind of like low in numbers, so we'll take anybody and stuff.
Sometimes the best thing a flower can do is die.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is a cruel world, and like it is unrelenting and unforgiving, and they just did not. I liked how they stuck to that, and it was consistently delivered throughout the whole like first season. It did not sway from that. Also, the dragon hunt episode. I got this completely wrong because Huber corrected me. I thought that was what the wild hunt was because they say let's go on a wild hunt. I was like, oh, this is what it is.
I love how you hearing the title of these Witcher games and then like creating a whole story in your head. Yeah.
I was like, yo, is the whole game about hunting dragons?
This is it, baby.
Like,
The wild hunt.
He's like, no, dude, it takes place way after everything. Like, no. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. But what's the character, the bard character, just like following around Geralt and stuff? I forget.
Yeah, I always want to call him Dandelion, but it's not Dandelion. It's like Haskir or something like that. Yeah, I'm blanking on his name.
But it was kind of interesting to see Geralt letting him tag along. Obviously annoyed at him, but like you could tell it immediately helped establish like he feels alone.
Oh, it is. Better known as Dandelion in Polish, Jaskier. Okay, so maybe it just is that character.
Or whatever.
Jaskier. It's Jaskier.
Okay.
But yes, he is wonderful. What the point is that he is wonderful, and his relationship with Geralt is wonderful.
Like, the fact when he decides like he's worth saving, like he's worth me doing something that like might put my own life at risk or my own interest at risk and stuff, because it was nice to see. Because I was worried Geralt was going to be too one-dimensional. That was my biggest fear after the first episode. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And like there'll be a little bit of death, but I feel like he's going to be possibly the most shallow character. And then through these developments, specifically his interaction with the bars, like there's, even though he's not saying a lot half the time, the body language and the expressions, like I'm sensing there's a lot more there. And it like kind of pulls it out and extracts it by the end of the season 1. I'm like, there's a lot to this, and it's good.
And what I like about their relationship is, you have characters in fantasy that are kind of like Geralt, that are kind of hard, that are kind of distant, that like prefer to be alone, and then you have a character that comes in and kind of softens them up. And then when that happens, they just kind of completely lose what they were before, like they're just completely soft. And that is not Geralt. Like he still, even he himself is sometimes conflicted about his relationship with the bard, and like snaps at him sometimes, and like he still has those difficulties. Like he's not suddenly cured just because he's made this friend, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Love the different, like, kind of like not really side stuff, but like as like Ciri, we didn't really talk about her and like that whole origin story and stuff. Like it's probably the character I was like seen and probably heard the most about other than Geralt, but really like obviously because when Cyberpunk trailers came out and there was like the talk about, oh, Ciri could make a cameo now. I'm like, oh, so there must be some time traveling power or something with her. So like that was like all I knew about her is like she must have like special powers or something.
Yeah.
But like the way
in my mind, you were just waiting for it to turn into Cyberpunk. That's it.
Well, I mean, I was almost waiting for a Bioshock Infinite moment where when she's shrieking and stuff, she loses control and doesn't fully recognize her powers. She opens a portal or something. You see another time period, because that was the kind of the framing of the first season, is that the episode 5 or episode 4 is like the reveal. I'm sure smarter fans who are more familiar picked up on it sooner than I did, that you're seeing 2 different time periods and they're going to converge at the end. So you're seeing Geralt in the past and Ciri in the future, like after events have happened after episode 1. I was like, oh, because when they visit the like starts with the C, Sintra, yeah, I believe it's Sintra. And like, wait, they're going there, so like they're gonna go have a party at a ruin and stuff, and it's like, oh, this is I got it now. I like that. I didn't find that too confusing at all. And I did feel very invested in seeing like what's gonna happen when Geralt finally catches up. Like, are him and Ciri gonna finally meet in this season? Are they gonna hold off to next season? And yeah, I like the as they were exploring that, seeing into different pockets of the world, like the forest of the elves, or I forget what they were.
Right. No, I know who you're talking about. Like the stay with.
They used the milk into like tell if you're pure and stuff, and they were trying to like they knew who Ciri was, so they're trying to keep Ciri there because she could be a powerful ally and stuff. The Black Knight guy who was like hired a doppelganger, the assassin. I was like, that guy was a little like insane.
One of my favorite, if not my favorite, Ciri moment was when she goes into that like refugee camp and meets the family, and they're just like shit talking her family, and you get a different perspective on what like the other side of life views this kingdom as, and royalty and all that stuff. Exactly.
And then when it goes to shit, when they get when the attack happens, and that payoff later when she's at the village, and like it actually is a genuinely nice woman trying to help her, same pitch as before. She's like, steal that horse, get the F out of here. I was like, I know what really happens here and stuff, but like at the same time they bring her back like, actually not everyone is like that. So, welcome to the real world. You gotta learn to trust.
I'm not sure if you agree with this, Damiani, and while there was undoubtedly some good serious stuff in season 1, there were definitely episodes where I'm like, Ciri did like nothing this episode. Like there were just times where it felt like they were showing her because like, hey, this is the ultimate goal. We want them to meet at some point. They were reminding you of it, but I just felt like sometimes the Ciri storyline was spinning its wheels a little bit.
I felt like her arc in this first season was the weakest. I was expecting like some awesome payoff or something to kick in at some point. It's like, okay, they're just like, they need to like remind me that she exists because something important is going to happen. And it doesn't feel like we quite even got there at the end of season 1. Like they're still alluding at things, and it just felt like her path was just like, I'm moving along this path because I need to get to point B by the end of this season. Like it doesn't feel like. It feels like a necessity rather than like they kind of like embraced it and like told like a really intriguing story around her. It was more like everything around her was more intriguing than her herself, which was kind of unfortunate. And I don't know how much I actually like the character so far. I mean, I want to give it, till next season. Maybe they get more screen time. Maybe I get to see more about it. I don't want to judge it too harshly yet, but felt like Ciri was the weakest character of anyone of the main cast that I saw so far in the show.
I know you said you want to you kind of enjoying experience the world passively, and I actually completely understand that. But I'd be curious because I feel like a lot of people are either just coming from the games or coming from the games and the books or just coming from the books and then seeing how they're interpreting the characters. And you would be coming from the show into the game. And so it'd be interesting to see like how you feel about the different representations from that perspective.
I get it. Yeah. I maybe want to try that. One thing that I found odd was that they kept saying that Geralt, a Witcher's not supposed to have any kind of like human emotion. Yet he obviously wanted to have like sex with like almost anything that like he had attraction.
That's not an emotion.
So he was just like he cared. It felt like he cared about certain people. Like it felt like attachment, almost love.
No, he's feigning that just to get them in bed.
Okay, he just learned to act so well.
From what I understand of The Witcher, that's basically what.
This is a bit? Or are you actually serious? Okay.
Kyle.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you bounced off The Witcher 3 pretty hard.
Yeah. Crookback Bog.
Yeah. What? I'm just curious. What was it specifically that you didn't care for?
So it's really funny, Ben, is that this show kind of says to me like, hey, it just wasn't going to happen, because you would think that I would be a little interested in watching the Witcher show, and it's just not there. I think I'm just not into this theme.
Dark fantasy?
Yeah, I think I'm just not into dark fantasy. I think it just doesn't light me up in any direction. And so I think that's part of just I was never really into the game.
So I have two guesses.
Yeah.
Is it A, that it is too grim, or that the grimness comes across as a little forced?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right. I can play grim things and I can watch grim shows. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was forced. It's, like I don't know. It's just me and like not even like dark fantasy, dude. Like, if there's magic around a castle, if there's a griffin, pretty tuned out.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm just trying to understand because I love dark fantasy.
Yeah.
I just am inherently interested in it. And you love Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And
love Final Fantasy.
I mean,
I
feel like there are
sci-fi fantasy.
I feel like there are griffin equivalents all over the place.
How is any of this different from Star Wars?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No idea.
It must just be like an aesthetic thing.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in there.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Kyle. Like, I mean, if it wasn't getting such good a word of mouth and everyone here kind of like talking about the show and saying like we need to watch it, like I did feel like there was that sort of level of peer pressure plus like professional responsibility. Like this is active. This like it's one of the least easiest things to get into. Like the barrier entry is like non-existent. Just sit around for a few hours, watch the show, so you at least get to discuss it. I'm like, okay, no excuses for this. So I did feel the push to get into it. It wasn't all of my own. Like I'm just genuinely interested in this because I too generally don't like to go towards the gritty, realistic, like even when it comes to fantasy, I present the more fantastical, like whimsical interpretation of fantasy stuff. But there are certain things that do speak to me, and like this, despite that, was doing that. Another one, like completely different, but it's more like the satanic fantasy stuff. The Sabrina. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on.
You would call that satanic fantasy?
Well, it's all about like the occult and like in hell and like worshiping Satan and stuff. But like they kind of like it's like kind of like almost like pastiche. It's like this is like we're not literally doing this stuff, but like we are doing it and stuff. But like and these characters acting like this is completely normal. Like I'm sacrificing this, or we're doing some gory thing here, and it's just like, oh, okay. For some reason, like I like that show, and it's like, oh, okay. I would never think I would have liked something like this because it's too gritty, realistic, and I'm also not the biggest fan of horror either or gore.
You want to know what happened with me in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina?
Yeah. Okay. What happened?
We were watching it. And it was great. I was really liking it.
Okay.
And then, I don't know if it's the first episode, it's early on in the series. She's going to, like, summon a bunch of spiders to, like, freak out a professor or something. And I was like, guess it's not meant to be.
Not meant to be.
And I've never watched it since.
Yeah. You have nothing to apologize for it, too. Yeah. Whatever.
They never go back to something like that, though.
And it's, I love dark fantasy and fantasy in general.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified of spiders, and fantasy loves spiders, and so it's just the way that it goes. This is a crazy coincidence, you guys, but somebody else who sent in a testimonial was Henry Cavill.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I haven't actually gotten to read it yet. It just popped up here. And I only watch Frame Trap when Bloodworth is on. He's a true Witcher fan.
I blew it. That's on me.
You blew it?
Yeah. I mean, Henry is not watching this episode.
No.
Yeah.
No, Henry hasn't seen too many episodes.
Yeah, it's not just you. Me too. He's just like, oh, someone just watches the show?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm honored you watched it, but at the same time,
Read the books.
get out of here. At least read. Come
Yeah.
on.
And Bloodworth does read the books for the record.
Oh, yeah, Bloodworth
if you're not
probably-
familiar.
Bloodworth
can
is like
quote them.
Bloodworth is like gonna reread the books.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah. He doesn't want to watch the show until he's read
And
those
not
books.
not the audio versions. You gotta sit down and read those.
Yes.
Bloodworth man, he was like, "Oh, I found out that there was actually a book that I didn't read, and so I went and I ordered it online, and I got to finish." Like he just felt so ashamed and guilty, and it's like, dude, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. But that is some true dedication. You got to
Pretty
respect
awesome.
it. Boy, I've got two things to talk about. Do you want to hear the sad one or the happy one?
Sad one now.
Sad one now.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we can
Be happy later.
Yes.
It's sad might be a little bit too dramatic for it. So I've been playing that Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Ooh.
And to get this out of the way, I'm having a good time
Okay.
because I love Warcraft 3.
Sure.
I've always loved Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 was a favorite game of childhood, particularly middle school and middle school summers. It's what got me into the Warcraft universe and made me like a Blizzard super fan. It's a game that I've always held in my heart, and since I've known Huber, we've talked about wouldn't it be great if they remade or remastered or re-released Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
And they did. Kind of.
Kind of.
It's pretty rough, man. It's just this thing is $30, and I can't believe that I'm looking at a Blizzard game and I'm like, this is kind of ugly. Like this, to me, Warcraft, especially at its best, right? I think about like World of Warcraft, and what was so cool about that is it had a very distinct style and look.
Yeah.
It was doing fantasy. And there were other fantasy MMOs at the time. There were a lot of other fantasy games, but it had this own exaggerated style that was immediately recognizable and very distinct. And Warcraft 3 had that as well. And what I liked about it is it was like fun. It was extremely bright and colorful and kind of goofy. But within that, they were still able to tell a pretty heartbreaking and dark story with Arthas and his fall and all of that. And it's like they took that and just like ran it through like a generic filter. Like, I don't know what else to say. It was like, okay, what if these characters looked less distinct? Like, like let's make them more realistic. And so they just seem kind of like plasticky and stiff, and I don't know. It's a hard thing to describe, but like I think if you look at them side by side, you can be like, okay, this one Reforged like looks better, but it also looks less special, if that makes sense.
That absolutely makes sense to me.
Yeah, it like looks better in only the most literal of ways.
That's Twin Snakes to me.
Yes, Twin Snakes is a
Technical
good
advancement, but
Yeah.
the aesthetic is just butchered.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's just something that I just don't feel like the soul of it anymore.
Yeah.
You know? Like somebody just behind a machine was like, let's spruce this up, but they had no, I don't know. It's very, very frustrating, and I'm having this weird thing, and I don't know. I've heard that there are performance problems and bugs and all sorts of things with Warcraft 3 Reforged. I've just been playing the campaign, which is what I'm most interested in, and I've been having it runs fine, except every once in a while there will be like this weird stutter that happens. It's just like a little skip, and it's not enough to completely ruin the game, but it feels like it has poor performance. and it's a remake of a 17-year-old game, and it doesn't even look that good. And I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like, there's really nothing here. Like,
Doesn't it feel special then?
no, it's like,
It seems so surprising because
if I say remake instead of remaster, forgive me. It's a remaster.
someone who's come through, I'm not an avid Warcraft fan.
Yeah.
But even I know how important Warcraft 3 is and how important it is to a lot of people, including, I thought, Blizzard. And I just as a spectator, I would have thought they would have gone all out on something like this.
Right.
That's something people wanted for a long time. This is gonna be a big deal. In fact, when they revealed it, 2 years ago, was it? Roughly?
That's the weird
Yeah,
part of
I
the
think it was 2
story
years ago.
is that it looked better then.
Oh.
They scaled it back from that reveal.
And they were doing different things with the UI. So, like, when you would click on Arthas as a hero unit, he would, kind of be in there. Like, he would, be popping out of the screen almost, and he'd be kind of floating there. It's not a great way to describe it. But now he's just, like Warcraft 3 in a portrait, basically. It's
I wonder if that was a budget thing. I wonder if they got their budget cut.
That seems so weird, though, for something like Warcraft 3.
Right.
I feel like Warcraft should go after, especially in a post-WoW existence, anything Warcraft should be like a flagship thing for Blizzard, I would think. Even revisiting old stuff. I mean, we've seen countless companies do fantastic revisits, remasters, reimagining, of older games, and with Blizzard's talent behind it, I was expecting this to be another the second coming, when WoW Classic came out last year. People was raving about they nailed it, they got the experience right and stuff, and but it's updated and stuff and looks great, and doesn't seem to be especially after what you said and reading headlines from other people, the discussions out there of just the sentiment of disappointment behind it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and that's really the best way to summarize it. It's really amazing how not all out they went. I've wanted a remaster of Warcraft 3 so badly, and I think a perfect way to sum it up is I was going through the human campaign, and there's a lot of story in Warcraft 3. There are cutscenes between missions. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to skip this. I know what happens. And it didn't look good enough, nor was it presented interestingly enough to make me want to watch it. It wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to see this scene that I know in this new and exciting way. It's just I feel like I've already seen this. I haven't technically in this remastered version, but I feel like I have, and it's boring.
That sucks because each area, not just cutscenes, but each new area you go to when you're going into a remaster, one of these things, you want. As a fan, you want to be this giddiness of I can't wait to see what this looks like and stuff, and to lose before you've even seen it, to lose the interest. I don't even really care what you're gonna do next because you've disappointed me so much at this point.
Even just redoing the cinematics, just doing it, just playing it again and being oh, these are just the same cinematics from 20 years ago. Oh, okay, cool. And that to me is very anti-Blizzard at its best. I feel like when Blizzard had a new game or a new expansion, it was oh my God, I have to stop and watch this. And they're really at the top of their game. They just had a presence with them, and there's just no presence with Warcraft 3 Reforged. That being said, though, I think if you have never played Warcraft 3 in any capacity, there is still so much goodness in there. I still think Warcraft 3 at its core is a phenomenal game, and I think that's what makes this so frustrating. Warcraft 3 is still wonderful. The hero-centric RTS strategy of it is great, and getting to play as 4 different races who all have very different and distinct identities is really, really cool. And some of the missions, especially when it's oh, we have to go and murder these townspeople before they turn into these hideous abominations, and we're racing against demons who are also trying to kill them. There's some really good, inspired, fun ideas in the level design and in the gameplay itself. It's just a shame that the remaster doesn't have that energy.
Besides the kind of like standing the test of time and holding up so well, like the core game itself.
Yeah,
Did they
there are some things that feel old for sure.
Oh, I was gonna ask, did they do any quality of life improvements to it, or something, like anything that you've seen so far that's like, ooh, this was a nice touch, like that they did something like that, or did they leave it mostly unaltered?
They did rebalance the game.
Okay.
But as somebody who's just like, oh man, I loved this campaign, I want to jump in and play this campaign again, like none of that stuff. I mean, it's been, however long since I've played it, but it's nothing that is like immediately obvious to someone who isn't a competitive player, or at least it isn't obvious to me.
Okay.
It feels the same. Yeah.
Would you recommend someone play the original?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't, and that's the hard thing, Kyle, is it's like, I would love to hear from somebody comparing the new look and the old look and being like, what do you think is better? Because is it just nostalgia that I'm speaking to? But I don't know. I just think there's more heart in the original look. I think if you do play this new version, if it's more convenient for you or whatever, there's still a great game there. Mm-hmm. Like, I think people should play Warcraft 3. I do think $30 is too much for this.
Yeah.
For what it is.
How much can you buy the original for right now? If you can.
I don't know.
Do they still offer it through officially?
Not through Battle.net, I don't think.
That was something I heard, so I might have misheard this, and you might not even know the answer, because there was something, the headline I saw this morning was something about omitted online modes, or something about like online features or online mode. That's what's quality of life, maybe, because something was apparently cut and you can't play it anymore, even like the original or something. Like they axed it all together. And I obviously, I'm sorry I'm being so like not specific here, but like it sounded like that kind of would be, especially an online feature, would be like upsetting to like remove from a game or something like that, with like no replacement for it or something like that. Maybe it's a more competitive thing, so that's might be it. Right.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you like exactly. Here is what has changed and what's changed for the worst and what's going on between them. Yeah, no, but I was just coming. Really, the only place that I'm coming at it from right now is I can't wait to experience this campaign again. That's all I have any interest in at the moment, and just feeling pretty disappointed. Yeah, ideally, I still want to play through all of it, but I think that says enough. You just think what could have been. Yeah. So.
And honestly, it sucks so much that they showed you something better in the reveal.
Yeah.
You're wondering what could have been, and you have a clear vision of what it could have been. You're not even imagining it. It's right there. And it's just, I assume like their time and their budget just got cut.
Yeah, you want that like Kotaku article or that like no-clip documentary about what happened behind the scenes there or something like that.
Yeah. I bet StarCraft 2 Remastered hit it. The StarCraft 2 Remastered did not blow up.
No, StarCraft Remastered. Not StarCraft 2. It was just 2.
One?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're right. Why would they remaster 2?
Right.
Yeah, StarCraft 1
StarCraft
Remastered, yeah.
What have they remastered or revisited any of their older games and updated them that have been like significant?
They've done StarCraft.
Besides StarCraft.
No, they haven't done like a remaster of Diablo 1 or Diablo 2, which people really understandably want Diablo 2. But no, I think it's just StarCraft.
So I wonder if it's a philosophical thing, like how like Rockstar doesn't like to go, like they prefer not to go back to their older games and like do any significant updates, and they'd rather focus on newer projects. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was just like something that happened in the past 2 years where it's like, hey, we saw this got greenlit, but you know what? We really don't want to do this. This isn't our thing, and it's like, but it stinks because like the missteps they've had recently, it would be like this would be a thing you would think would be surefire. Like, let's not screw with this one. Like, let's get this right. Let's nail this. This would be a nice one, a nice check in the win column for us. And it sounds like it's middling at best.
I mean, publicly they've said to investors, "Hey, we want to release more games on a given year. We need to be releasing more games." And I think that's just part of that initiative. Pump them out.
So you think maybe it was rushed a bit?
Yeah, and I think count on Diablo remasters. You know what I mean? Like count on more. Count
that
on
Diablo
more of
2. When Diablo 4 gets closer, that Diablo 2 remaster's happening. And I really hope they don't. They don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. this is projecting a little bit, I think, and I want to be careful because making games is extremely hard, and even when people are disappointed or things don't go as planned, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a team of people that worked very, very hard on it. But with that said, releasing something like this in the state that it's in just seems so anti-Blizzard to me.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time, I feel like, where you could just buy something with Blizzard's name on it and have like total confidence in it that they would polish that thing to high heavens. Like, you wouldn't have this situation where people are comparing it in the way that they are and having it look so unfavorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like what you were saying, like Kyle, like Activision, like
I
the
think it might be some
higher ups,
Activision
like cracking the
influence,
whip there,
honestly.
saying like, sorry, like, wasn't there something recently said about like, not just what you just said, but like something even that predates that about rumors that like people, like the whole reasons people were leaving Blizzard potentially was because Activision was finally putting pressure, like it's time to like deliver like on more things,
More titles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
It's the sad
bummer.
one. You gave us. You promised
Yeah.
a sad one.
Yeah.
You gave us
Yeah,
a
that's sad.
one. Yep.
That's sad.
Yeah.
It's just genuinely sad because I think there are a lot of people out there who probably just didn't get to experience Warcraft 3, just weren't of an age to properly experience Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
And Warcraft 3 was an exciting game in so many ways. Like what it did for the Warcraft lore, how great the campaign was, but just the custom games and the creativity and the enthusiasm and the support and like the community around it. Like, it would be so cool to just have that energy and excitement back.
Yeah.
And be like, oh man, like I'm glad that more people get to experience this or have some semblance of what it was like. And now it's just like sadness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oh, that's too bad. Like, it's just nothing. Okay, cool. Whew, that was a sad one. What's also sad is we mentioned the forbidden word several times. Well, forbidden phrase
Several
really.
times.
Wow.
The forbidden genre. It's actually a new thing for us, a forbidden genre.
Forbidden genre. Oh, wow.
They didn't like that we said dark fantasy.
Oh.
That was a no-no. That was a no-no.
Oof.
Normally I wouldn't have. I feel like you told. This is your fault.
Yeah, this is my fault.
Why'd you bring it up?
A lot of times it's my fault.
I would not have talked about dark
We
fantasy.
were
Yeah.
tempted.
Yeah.
Ugh. I know why they banned this word.
We were talking about Temtem earlier, Kyle. I actually had no idea when I made this game that you were going to talk about Temtem.
Oh no.
We're going to do Temtem real or fake. I could with you guys on the panel, with both of you on the panel, I couldn't resist to do Temtem. And so
Okay.
you will be competing with each
Real
other.
or
Oh,
fake?
no.
Real or fake Temtem.
Oh, my
Kyle
God.
Bossman and Michael Damiani.
Okay, this is a good game.
All right, the first one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hocus.
Real.
Fake.
I'm sorry. Damiani gets a point.
Oh.
Damiani
Is it
says it's real.
H-O-U-C-H?
H-O-C-U-S. Hocus.
Yeah.
Hocus.
Okay, I
The-
think that's my starter I picked. even.
The
Pretty
evolution
sure-
is Hocus, I believe.
That's cute.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, number 2.
Yeah.
Zula.
Real.
Fake.
It's fake.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna take the opposite of yeah. I'm
No,
always
you
gonna-
got to start some. You can't
Yeah, no,
always
I
do
did
that.
the first one. I said
Yeah. You can't.
I
always
led
do-
off.
You can't always do the
I was
opposite.
the lead off hitter.
Okay.
Chuo.
Real.
Fake.
It's fake.
Oh, phew.
Dang, that sounds so stupid. It had to be real. Come on.
Partep.
Partep is real.
No, actually, Kyle, this is real.
Yeah.
Fake. You're both wrong.
Come on, I'm trying to what?
Partep
Partep.
sounds exactly like what a Temtem is.
Yes.
I made it up.
Come on. Well, watch it be added tomorrow.
It's gonna be the DLC tomorrow. Yeah.
When I do this game, sometimes I realize I have this terrifying fear of like, what if I made a fake thing that is real?
Yeah.
And so I like Control F and try to look for it. I am pretty sure Partep is fake, and it
Great.
just came from my brain.
It's perfect.
Number 5, last one.
All right.
Oh, no.
Kyle, this is your chance to tie it up.
Yeah.
Blues.
Spell it.
BLOOZE.
Oh,
Blues.
my
Do you want me to go first?
No, I got this.
Okay. Okay.
That's fake.
I'm gonna go with real.
It's real.
Yeah!
No. This is real.
Does that just like irk you, Kyle?
Yeah.
It's a real name?
It really does. I'm done. I'm deleting Temtem.
You're deleting it?
I'm deleting
Uninstalling from hard drive? Yeah.
Delete your account.
We're playing it on Tuesday, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not with my character.
Mike, that was a dominating performance in Real or Fake. Well done. You will have to break us out of the frame trap. But first, we have some wonderful people we got to shout out. And the way that we're going to do this shout out is we're going to get louder and louder.
A little bit louder now.
Louder now. Shout out to Elthanas. Shout out. Shout out to Greg, TheDarkKnight, Kettering. Shout out. Shout out to Caleb, Togi, Crawford. Shout out. Shout out to Will Schmuck.
Shout out.
Shout out to Mr. One Luigi. Shout out.
Whoa.
Did that work?
That's performative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
All
was
right.
good.
What are we going to talk about now? What do we want to talk about? Do we want to
Video
talk
games.
about Monster Hunter Stories?
Let's do it.
Kyle, why are you playing Monster Hunter Stories? This is wonderful.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, that makes sense. It's a 3DS title.
Yeah.
It is. Maybe I was just feeling an itch for like a Pokemon clone. Because in this game, you befriend the Monster Hunter
You do.
monsters.
Yeah,
You ride them.
you do.
Yeah.
You explore with them.
They hang out on your side. Yeah, and they're just like chibi versions of, their proper Monster Hunter selves. Cool visual style. Maybe that's part of what drew me in.
Would look really great on Switch, I would say.
Yeah, it would look great on Switch. Yeah, because it does look a little rough at the same time. Yeah, Ben, sometimes a game like this grabs me.
I dig it. So when you told me that you were playing this, I was immediately like very excited, and then I was like, he's not gonna like the battle system.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I like the game, and I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I need to know what this battle system is. I have no idea.
So it is rock, paper, scissors. It's, it's axe, spear, sword.
Okay.
It's just that. You have a wheel, and you choose the attack to do. And some monsters have tendencies toward rock, paper, or scissors. So it's like, oh, this guy he typically does power.
Okay, typically.
Yes. And so you feel pretty good doing a technical attack because you're like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's about to do a power attack right now. Here we go. And it's like, oh, I did speed, buddy. You're like, oh, come on. And the game's like, you got to watch for patterns. So like, okay. All right, game. Because sometimes it does do patterns. Sometimes it'll be like power, speed.
I was
Power,
going to
power,
ask, is
speed,
there actually
yeah.
a pattern, though, that you can observe?
With like the big boys, they typically have a pattern that you can get a hold of.
Because that sounds like it's preserving Monster Hunter.
A little bit,
yeah.
yeah.
When you're looking for the actual real patterns in real time.
Yeah. It is just, I think I'm done with it. I got to the first town. It was so exciting to build my first armors based off of creatures that I've killed. If I have enough of this type, I can build the armor of that creature. The stuff they've maintained for Monster Hunter. The story itself is that you are a little girl or a little boy, and there are actual monster hunters in this world who are like, why are you riding monsters, little girl? And you're like, well, it's what they did in my village. And at that point, I'm like, I'd rather just be a monster hunter.
Wait a minute. So is this the best turn of 2020? Is this where Kyle Bosman gets into Monster
Maybe.
Hunter?
Like, it did. The game made me want to play a proper monster hunter.
Yeah.
All
Because
right.
instead of when I get my cool armor, right, I'm playing, it's like a chibi version of the cool armor.
Yeah.
It's. I know there's a cooler version of this armor in the
There
actual.
is.
Yes.
Yes.
And so it's hard. It's hard to play this version of a game that once you get to a certain point is very clear made for children.
Right.
Whereas when I was about to fly to Germany back in the summer, it was between Dragon Quest VIII for my 3DS. I wanted a 3DS game and this game. I chose 8, loved it to death.
Right.
8, I don't think is made for kids, right? Like there was, I couldn't tell which game was going to be silly. It turns out it wasn't Monster Hunter, it wasn't Dragon Quest, and it totally is this very silly game.
Yeah. If this is out of bounds, let me know. But I
Sure.
feel like the way you're describing Monster Hunter Stories is pretty much the same way that you feel about Yokai Watch.
Yeah. Shoot. I think Yokai Watch is a better designed game than this.
Okay, why is that?
Yokai Watch, is considerate about its monsters and making it fun to have monsters. And recruit new monsters. I don't remember how you recruit them, but and some of them are like story driven. In this case, the way you get new monsters is you got to steal an egg.
Yes.
You can't tame them. You can't be like, hey, monster, like ride with me. You have to steal an egg, and then you take it back, and you hope that you get a cool one, and you kind of do. It's kind of randomized. And then if it sucks, you take its energy and put it into one of the monsters you like. And then it's just gone. It's just part of that monster now.
Did you like the designs of the monsters?
Yeah, but again, I'm looking at nerf designs.
Right, you want to see them out.
And I think every single monster in this game, at least to the point I got to, was a Monster Hunter monster. And so, yeah, there's a lot to its look. I actually liked the character creator a lot. It allows for expressiveness in that they have like a version that's like an embarrassed version, or like just got hit hard. The cat's dropped you off and you're on your back, and you have a very specific eye expression for that.
Did you like your Palico, your feline friend?
No.
You didn't like it.
Because it's not a regular old Palico.
Oh.
It is its own special talking one. I guess they all talk, but it's got different eyes. And I was thinking about this, like, why do you have different eyes? Because you can talk to regular old felines.
Yeah.
There's regular ones that look great.
Yeah.
You know, you look like a feline, but this one I think was made maybe to appeal to a wider audience.
Sure.
He's got cartoon eyes that probably, Windows wants to update. Can you believe this?
Can you believe this?
Can you believe Windows right now?
Can you believe Windows right now?
Another time, Windows.
Kyle,
That's forbidden.
I'm going to close this window. Please keep talking.
Yeah, I'll keep talking. So, Damiani.
Yeah.
It's been hard. Like, it was a rush up until that point where I got my armor, right? And it was really exciting to get cool armor. And then I realized there's nothing driving me forward. And the worst part happened is I was still playing a little bit, still collecting new things, fighting new monsters. My 3DS's battery has died, right? Like I closed it and like, okay, I'll continue later.
And
it
that's
died.
how long it took.
If I'm losing 15 minutes of this game, I'm giving it too much time. And so like, I'm done.
Okay.
After losing the 15 or 20 minutes since my last save, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
That was enough to make you bail.
Yeah.
So,
All
Kyle,
right.
Yeah.
I need to say something.
Sure.
I hate it when people do this to me because, you're your own person. You have your own interests.
Yeah.
You are perfectly capable of being motivated to check out any number of things on your own. But based on this experience and what you're describing and the things that you liked from it, I think maybe not necessarily playing with other hunters, but I think you would dig playing Monster Hunter on your own.
I think
really
so too,
do.
dude. I really do. I think so too. Because that's like it's funny. They have the appeal of the Monster Hunter games, but it's like just not the combat. They're like, are you scared to do the combat? You don't have to do that kind of combat.
Well, I wonder if you did get invested in Monster Hunter and then return to stories, and then maybe you would have like some things would be more enjoyable just because it's like, oh, it's cool how they're representing this. Like I have some context for this. Yeah, I don't know. But I just think, so Monster Hunter World, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get into.
Yeah.
Easier than other Monster Hunter games. And one of the things I really like about Monster Hunter World, and I think you would really like about Monster Hunter World, is it puts a huge emphasis on the world part. It treats the world like a character, and there are moments you have to go and explore and investigate it and learn and understand, and I think you'd just be into that stuff. That's all.
There's a really funny moment, Ben, when I teach a giant rabbit monster how to shoot flames out of its mouth. And it's part of the story, you have to. And the character who teaches you this ritual says, and it's just going to happen to this one monster, so you don't have to worry about it negatively infecting the environment. And it shows my character and the cat going, yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And like the game, there is like a pro-environment message clearly throughout this entire game that I actually kind of appreciate.
Right.
It's very funny in that way.
Yeah, world is interesting because obviously you're murdering and capturing monsters, but there's this message of, hey, these monsters that we're eventually working to, that the big ones that we're investigating, are completely disrupting the environment. Like we've got to go and take them out so like balance can be restored, kind of a thing. But
I think someone told me once that Monster Hunter takes place in a world of like deep future of our own world. and that the monsters themselves were weapons of mass destruction.
And
I find that
that
very
is
appealing.
true. I don't know that.
I find that very, very appealing.
Let's just
Must
say
be a
yes
hidden
then.
anime.
Yeah.
Let's just say yes
Yeah.
then.
I like that.
Yeah.
Boy, they're still making that Monster Hunter movie.
Yeah.
I
I think
forgot
it's going
about
to be
that.
very cool.
I think I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben, I think I put a lot of time into it.
Oh, really?
It could have been 8 or 9 hours probably
Okay.
before bailing on that one.
I'm trying to remember how much time I put into it. I think it was like 15 or 20. It could have been less than that, but I don't know. A number of hours.
Did you get to the giant spider?
I think so.
Yeah, it's not a hairy spider.
No.
Yeah.
It's a Monster Hunter spider.
Exactly,
If
yeah.
I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been years now since
Oh, yeah.
I've played it. I'd have to like go and look, but then I'm thinking it might be the 3DS the PGA 3DS that I don't have anymore.
Oh wow.
But I guess if it's saved on the cart, then it doesn't matter. But I don't know if I have the cart. I
So
don't know.
The weird thing is though, Ben, that I just realized as we have this 3DS conversation, that was probably it. That was probably the last 3DS game I was curious about and haven't tried.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's there are so many games, Kyle, that are in like my 3DS backlog. A lot of like big RPGs that I'd love to go back and polish off. Like I dumped a lot of time into Dragon Quest VII, and I would just love to go and finish Dragon Quest VII because I really like that game. But I do not want to play my 3DS at all.
Yeah.
I have no desire to play my 3DS. And I liked the system. Huge fan of the system. A lot of great memories. But like I feel like I've just moved beyond that. And it sounds so condescending in like the shittiest way, but I just want them to put it on Switch. Like
Sure.
I don't know.
It did have good 3D. To its credit, you slide that slider up, good 3D in this game.
Kyle, I feel like I only used the 3D for like the first 2 years, and then it was like permanently off.
Because the game they run better if you slide it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's like
Yeah.
it's going to run better if it's not in 3D. It's like, all right, okay.
Michael Damiani, you and Mike and Mike did a whole playthrough of a brand new game, Journey to the Savage Planet.
Oh yeah. Just funny. The irony here, it was between that and Warcraft III Reforged.
Ooh, so you made the right call.
Because I was like, oh,
Yeah.
would it be cool for Hubert to take me through a game I've never played before?
Yeah.
Or
Actually,
do we
would be
do
really interested in that.
or do we do co-op? I'm like, co-op's probably the safer route here. So yeah, might have been be able to speak more about Warcraft 3, but
You know, it would be a good Mike and Mike,
what would be?
The Witcher 3.
That'd be a long one.
That would be an
Especially after
extremely
Kakarot,
long
we
Mike
were
and
like,
Mike, yeah.
after Kakarot, we were like, yeah, we might want to pick games that we know could be like done in 20 or less hours definitively.
Yeah.
Run the risk of that.
I feel like I've been doing some form of a JRPG playthrough, like since Easy Allies has started. And like I really love JRPGs, but like I'm just ready to stream other things. You know, like after Mana, it's like let's not do a JRPG. Let's just
you got to
do
bounce
something
back and
else.
forth.
That
Yeah.
feels
sure.
feels right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Journey to Savage Planet, the game that we'd be hearing the name about. I'd watched a few trailers, and just the fact that it mentioned had online co-op was what made it win out. But this game, the best thing, it was a good game. Definitely enjoyed it. I think the nicest thing I could say about this is it feels like the closest thing I've played to a Metroid Prime style game. Period. Like, it was definitely going for that vibe, but it also works in a lot of different elements. Like, it doesn't go full Metroid Prime, which I think is, like, it's a $30 game, first of all. It's only, like, so it's not as big of a budget, and it's a very nice looking game, but there are only so many areas in the game you could tell because of its shorter length. It's, okay, they were clearly going for something a little bit more focused, and I think it works too, what it does. The concept is I love this. You watch this opening little video, it kind of felt a little bit like Darling-esque from Control, where this travel agent is explaining that you are traveling on with the fourth best interstellar travel agency. That's the name of the company. And you have crashed on this planet and in this ship called the Javelin. And it's like, hey, you want to get out of here, don't you? Well, you have some options here. It's got like tries a little bit of dark humor. Well, you can either go find fuel and power up and get out of here, or if not, congratulations on your new home and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, so they're playing that angle. And it starts off very simple. It's like, okay, here's your first objective. Like, go out and find this material or something like that, because you need to, like, the game's about finding stuff, scanning stuff. That's the best part I like, is that it takes the concept of, like, especially if you played Metroid Prime, scanning objects, getting that information, and then using that information not just as, like, in like combat, but also in terms of figuring out what you need to, like, craft or what you need to do to advance in terms of, like, a puzzle element in the game. And I really like that about that. And it eases you into that. Like, your first objective is find some materials to craft your first thing, because you got to get through this cave, and you come across this unknown crystal structure that, you can't quite, you basically only have melee, and you have this grenade item that's really food. And when you toss it, it lures the native indigenous species to go after and start munching on it. But it doesn't, like, really hurt them or anything like that. So that's all you really have at your disposal. And
can you get them to attack things?
So that's what we thought. Hubert and I, like, oh yeah, we're doing this right now. We're gonna lead them to the crystals, and then they're gonna ram it or something, or we're gonna shoot them, or they're gonna blow up and stuff. And that didn't work. And in fact, we didn't even know, like, it was first Huber's like, we gotta shoot them because they're cute and cuddly little, like, look like angry birds, basically. And I was like, I don't want to shoot these things. They look innocent, cuddly. But the game's like, no, you gotta survive on this planet, so shoot them. Oh, we got carbon from them, and we needed carbon to start crafting stuff. I was like, okay, so you're gonna have to kill indigenous things to get their raw materials, which you're then gonna need to synthesize the new things that you need to progress in the game. I was like, okay, but, like, figuring out what you need to kill or what you need to do is, like, just a small part of it as well. A lot of it is about how you're going to progress, and it's not just, like, you get a gun. You do get a gun, so it does become kind of like a first-person shooter. It's presented in first person, and you come across, there's not a terrible lot of enemy variety in the game at first. It's very simplistic. I think it's more about taking in the environment, little slower pace, like, there's platforming involved, and it's like, how do I get from, I see a spot over here. Can I go over here yet? Oh, I can't, but I can scan this object. Oh, it tells me if I had, like, a grappling hook thing, I could get up here. Or if you could do, like, a double jump with, like, a thrust pack, which you haven't invented yet. And when you go into your trees, your invention trees, you can see these things that you, once you realize you need them, it'll tell you, hey, you can get this, but you lack these materials to synthesize it. And what's great is, if you haven't seen a material yet, it'll tell you unknown material. So it's like, keep exploring the environment, keep figuring it out. So that kind of, like, that gameplay loop is kind of nice, and I like that about it.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I was listening to the video review, IGN video review of Journey to Savage Planet, and they said something that I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, where I feel like they were implying, like, once you get your gun, the game becomes a little bit more traditional and a little less special. Is that accurate to your feelings? Like, does it kind of fall into a more conventional route at some point?
So it doesn't do anything exceptional. It is, I hate to say it, I don't want to call it generic, but it doesn't do anything too ambitious. Like, the premise I told you is about as elaborate as get. There's some parts later on that are pretty cool. Right. So things they introduce, but for the most part, the first 2/3 of the game is very open, and you get a few core abilities, and you're just kind of, like, building upon those, upgrading those, essentially. Like, oh, you can hold more rounds in your gun, you can shoot more powerful rounds, oh, you can, like, double jump, now you can do, like, a boosted jump, and then, like, you get the grappling thing, oh, you can grapple, oh, you can now ride along, like, the coolest part of the game, you can ride along these, like, little, like, tendril things.
That sounds really fun.
And it's Metroid Prime 3. It's literally the corruption thing again, or, like, BioShock Infinite's hook thing. That was really awesome and stuff, and I like that. But I kind of agree with that sentiment, because the shooting and stuff, like, it never gets, like, that intense. Like, the way you advance becomes pretty formulaic at a point. It's like, oh, I get this trick. Like, I'm gonna have to lead that food thing. Oh, there's this, like, fan thing that you gotta, like, feed them into. It's gruesome. They get, like, shredded up and everything, but then it's, like, fed this thing that recoils its tendrils so you can advance through a corridor. And you see about, like, 20 of those through the whole game, and it's like, okay, like, you could have done something a little bit different than that.
Is the humor like, consistent throughout the whole thing, and is it enjoyable? Because I feel like what I've seen, it's maybe not a lot of, but what I see in videos is like, oh, here's this, like, big-eyed creature and it farts. Is there a lot of that?
So that, I don't know about, I don't mean that part of it. didn't really notice as much, and if like
Okay.
that sounds really dumb if that is all it is.
I have
like, in
not
terms-
played the game,
but
so
in
I may
terms
be
of like
completely
so one
misrepresenting
thing,
it.
and Kyle, you got to see this because we showed you this.
The boss fight? I'm thinking it looks like a big dumb joke guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
What does it look? What does the joke guy look like?
Big bulgy eyes, big cartoonish teeth. You know,
I've seen a lot of big
It's
eyes.
goofy,
Yeah.
yeah. Like the enemies, that's what I was trying to get at. Like the design, it gets a little goofy looking. It's not very inspired. It looks.
See, I don't think Goofy is necessarily bad.
It's goofy in a bad way in that like it just looks ridiculous and it doesn't look interesting and it like accentuates obvious things. Like it's way too obvious. Like it doesn't fit in with like this kind of like sense of like I want to figure out this enemy. Like oh, it's got two giant bulge things in the back that are glowing. It's like it's that usual trope when it's like you kind of squandered that because there are some kind of more interesting remedial enemies before that. Like Huber figured out you had to use stealth to take down this type of enemy that we're like, how do we shoot it? Do we need to like distract it and stuff? And he's like, dude, it's totally stealth. I'm gonna do this. I'm like, really? And he like figured out. I'm like, oh, okay, it worked. There was a takedown prompt for him to do that. I was like, that was kind of clever, but it never really ascends beyond like that. Like it's. I feel like it's just a product of like they probably didn't have the biggest budget and like they stuck to their guns. I think they did the best with what they had to work with, and I think they went for they focused on the more interesting parts, the environments. The few that there are in there, I like them. I like the emphasis on scanning, figuring out things, like being a little bit more methodical. Don't rush in there. And then the platforming stuff, especially once you would like advance like your grappling hook and stuff, you can start laying down things to like scale up cliffs and like, you know, not really wall jump, but like grapple back and forth. Stuff like that. And there's a lot of there is an emphasis on the get to an end, there's a final boss, but there's also a lot of like secondary things. Like Huber and I were always coming across like, do we go this way? Do we go that way? And we were doing co-op. That was a great thing. He would advance doing something else while I'd go do a side activity. And it's like this, like I think this game does co-op pretty well like that.
Did you feel like you were excited to explore and there were surprises throughout the whole game?
During the first half to maybe 2/3, definitely the first half. It started to wear off around the halfway part because
So how long is it?
we took about 5.5 hours.
I think it was 5.5.
5.5 hours.
They did get the bad ending.
Supposedly,
Yeah.
there's multiple endings, but we
What do you have to do to get the bad ending?
we don't
Bare
know.
minimum.
Well, I guess
You
the bare
did the
minimum.
bare minimum.
Okay, Kyle knows the expert on this
You
game.
got
He
the
knows
bad
that we did the
ending.
bare minimum. Kyle was yelling at me. He's like, Damiani, Huber is running ahead doing all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm trying to do side stuff because I'm like, I think, maybe we're not supposed to rush ahead and stuff. I feel like there's
You wouldn't have gotten the bad ending.
there are all these
Yeah.
there's a teleport system. That's how you progress far enough, activate a teleporter. Now you can backtrack to your ship because you can go back to your ship to synthesize new items and gear and stuff. So there were a lot of those teleports we didn't activate. And I was like, we missed whole areas. Like, where were these and stuff? Because we're trying to rush ahead and stuff towards the end. Because this guy's like, you're so close to the end. Come on, guys, just push ahead to the end.
He was pushing you to get
He's
ahead
like,
to the end.
you're like,
and
you
now
gotta
you're
finish this.
saying,
Well,
"Was
Huber
I
also-
supposed to get the
This
bad
stream's
ending?"
supposed to be a 4-hour stream.
Yeah, and Huber wanted to finish it too. Like it was equally Huber as well, and I felt like Huber's passion there. But at the end, I was like, I feel like we like this could have been broken into two and would have been like more satisfying for someone
Sure, I
like
see what
me.
you're saying. Yeah.
Towards the end, it got a little bit more linear. Like the open nature of it, like the emphasis to like go over here, explore that, goes away. It becomes way more focused once you go into like this tower environment. And it's like keep pushing ahead, keep pushing ahead. It's like solve a straightforward puzzle in front of you to advance to the next room, and then like you get to the final sequence. Won't spoil it, but like it's extremely straightforward and linear, though. Figuring out where everything was like a bit of a headache, but it is the last probably third or fourth of the game is drastically different pacing and tone than the majority of the game. And that was probably where I was the most disappointed, was in the end, like the end portion of this game. Though I did like the final boss fight was kind of cool.
All right.
Yeah. It was okay.
It was kind of cool.
It was, yeah.
You know what?
It looked like
was cool.
It looked like a retro design boss.
Yeah.
Sorry, not retro, rare. Like Rare designed that boss. Like they fit in Banjo Kazooie.
It did look like a N64
Conquer. It
boss.
looked like a Conquer 64 boss
Yeah,
or something
you're gonna
like
see
that.
that on a 64 game.
It's weird, Damiani, because I've been kind of just casually looking at this game from an outside perspective and learning a little pieces of it here and there. But I feel like your impressions have made me be like, I don't I don't think I want to spend 5-6 hours with this.
I feel like also, again, we played it co-op, and it's only online co-op, but we were playing on two systems like together on a couch. So
Right.
I feel like we did get the couch online experience, the local online, local multiplayer experience. And I think that really enhanced it for us,
Sure.
which is not what majority of people are not going to get that experience.
Right.
So it was a very unique setup and situation.
Can you just like play with some random online? Like, can you just?
So
go
how
into
it
their
works
world?
is there's separate campaigns. Like your progress is locked between single and multiplayer. So your single player progress is not tied over to your multiplayer.
But if I just hit multiplayer,
You can search for a session
I see.
and join someone, or you can send start a brand new session and invite friends ahead of time. Or
Now-
a friend ahead of time.
because that is the case, can you hurt each other?
Oh, there's friendly fire, and we use it both mostly tactical advantage, because when you have 30 seconds to revive a fallen teammate, but when you revive them, they get full health. So in certain battles and stuff where there's no health around, it was strategic for one of us to like shoot the other. Hey, I'm like low health. Shoot me now during this downtime, and then revive me so I'm back at full health.
You know what? They should have made a mechanic where it just heals you.
Yeah.
They should have thought that one through.
Yeah, that was a little dumb. Or I guess it was a bit of an oversight. Also, I got a lot of soft locks.
Just frozen. Controls would not
Or
work.
like Huber had to shoot me, and then my revival would let me re-engage the game. So it was only on mine. Never happened to Huber once, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it just happened to me but it happened like 4 or 5 times. And it was not me trying to do ridiculous stuff. It was just me trying to play the game normally, which was it happened enough that it was a distraction. But at the same time, for the majority of the game, like it happened more towards the end of the game than the beginning. So wouldn't hold it too much against it. Definitely.
I feel like just knowing that there's friendly fire would make me hesitate to ever play with a random person ever.
Oh, with a random? No way.
Oh yeah, like
no
they
way.
could, yeah, and like it has the soul saying where like your resources that you got to bring it back to your ship, otherwise if you die, they get your corpse leaves behind like a Dropbox looking thing, like a container that houses your previous. The RP is there's a cloning bay, so each clone comes out. Hey, go back and get your clone's materials if you want. You die again. I don't know if it vanishes, but like you can lose those materials, and if playing with a troll player online,
Right.
they could kill you and then they could destroy your box. It's like, hey, that kind of sucks. But what was I gonna say? There was one really frustrating thing. Like I had a mostly good time turns for a good chunk of it, but there are some parts even in the early goings that weren't the greatest. Like I found Huber's doing his own thing, advancing through a puzzle, and I was like, hey, I found a side quest. I'm going to try and tackle this. And it was this weird thing where it dropped me into a boss arena. Like it was trying to do this thing where, oh, you found this like portal that's going to keep dropping you down and eventually going to land in this boss arena. And the last drop, I was like, oh, I have my double jump. I'm going to do it, land safely. And then the boss wrecked me because I wasn't prepared for it, so I wanted to go back and fight it again. But it did a different sequence. I don't know if it was a glitch or something, but it just dropped me during the last part of the drop sequence and wouldn't let me move. And it was a high enough fall, it insta-killed me every time. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, no, you let me get here legitimately the first time. Why are you not like, this sucks.
Man, I feel like that would be frustrating in any circumstance, but especially frustrating while you're streaming as well. Like that.
I
sucks.
gave up because like this
Yeah.
this boss, it's my current objective, and it's a boss fight. And it was a new type of boss. Like I think everyone wants to see this. I want to try it, and I couldn't even get back to try it again. So the first time I got there, I was on low health. I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna bother with this. Screw this. Like I'm done with this quest here. And I was just like, eh. So it has a little bit of that going towards it. Like it could definitely use a lot more polish. There is some jank there with that, to lack of a better word. But I mean, at the same time, I think I had a good time playing with Huber in that situation. But at the same time, that was a very unique way to play the game. And I think most people aren't going to have that same experience. And they're going to probably play for like an hour and like most to be like, I'm good.
Michael Huber is a tricky devil. because
He'll improve any game.
yeah, I feel like you could be playing the worst piece of shit ever made, and he'd be like, "It's pretty good," and you'd be like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And like, if you were playing that on your own, you wouldn't give it probably. Yeah,
I'll be
I'm
honest.
not saying that that's Journey to the Savage Planet.
Yeah,
I'm saying that's Michael.
No,
Huber. Yeah.
I do agree with that. I think it's like me. It felt like a around a 6 game, but with Huber elevated to like a swimming in 7 experience is the best way to put it.
Sure.
And like when I was trying to be kind by saying it's Metroid Prime like, there were like hints of it at best.
The
But
double
like,
jump feels like a Metroid.
yeah, but like it does not go nearly. It didn't even meet it halfway. It's like it's a shell of Metroid Prime.
Do you ever just think to yourself
shell.
that Metroid Prime 4 is coming and that's pretty cool?
No.
No.
What?
It feels invisible still. I will need to see the trailer before I get excited about Metroid Prime 4.
You must not be Force sensitive.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't sense it. I can't.
I like there like
feel it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, Kyle, because like the fact that retro is attached to it now makes me have a little bit more blind faith in it. It's
Yeah.
like I haven't seen anything, but retro, they did a good job, excellent job with those 3. But look how long it's been since Metroid Prime 3. Well, it's been a long time, and retro's not the same retro. It's like.
Right.
Actually, the more you think about it, the more it might not be.
It sounds insane to say. I think the Metroid Prime series declines. I think 1 is better than 2, and which is worse, or which is better than 3. And so, like, if you're watching their trend, you know what I mean? And also, I'd love Donkey Kong Country and obviously Tropical Freeze. And so, I know they can do this. I'm scared that there's going to be cutscenes. I'm
Kyle?
scared there's going to be people talking.
I mean, there probably is going to be talking in it, Kyle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think retro has proven they excel at being able to take an older concept and doing a new take on it and doing a new modern take on it while retaining the essence, the feel of that original one.
Yeah.
And I know they're gonna be like, based on what I'm arguing, Kyle, is and to have maybe have a little bit more like faith in them is they did make the original Metroid Prime trilogy, and
Yes.
I would agree that like it probably went down with each entry, like they were like they went that way, trended that way, but given how much time has passed, they get to look at those now and be like, how do we do something not only better, but even maybe a slightly different take?
You know what?
And like, I think
Yes.
they're masters at that.
Because
part.
I think that's what happened with 2. It's like, how do we do this different? And also, I think that one was pretty rushed out. And then 3, exactly. Like, how do we? We don't want to make another Metroid Prime. Let's have different planets, you know. And I bet you're right, Damiani. I bet it is that kind of thing. And so, having perspective on all that, they can go back to a core Metroid Prime game, and you don't have to gimmick it.
This might be pretty far reach, but do you think the kind of gluttony of Metroidvanias that have come out over the last several years have informed Metroid Prime 4 at all? Like, do you think
That's an interesting idea.
that they're not only taking a look back at Metroid and Metroid Prime specifically, but they're taking a look, and obviously, 2D Metroidvanias are different than Metroid Prime. I understand that, but I still think one could inform the other.
That question to me, Ben, is you're asking us if Metroid Prime 4 will have experience points. To me, that's like that would be what I would grab from Metroidvanias of more recent years is experience points.
I guess that's not what I had intended, but I
Yeah.
see where you're coming from.
Like it could have like leveling up your gear. It could have leveling up your blaster or whatever. And another thing is like Souls-like spawns. It works really well in Hollow Knight, and I think that could work. And I mean, it kind of. So Super Metroid Prime is kind of like Super Metroid. There's just save tanks, right? It's kind of just like a bench. It's kind of just like a fireplace in a way. I wonder if there's that kind of checkpoint system.
I mean, that could be one of the features I could see them putting in there. Maybe they stick to their guns, but I think one of the things I'd like to see is because especially like the more beloved Metroid games, like Super Metroid, even an OG Prime. Yes, there are different ways you can progress through the zones in the game, the areas, but all the areas are by design are required. There are no optional, like entirely optional or like extra areas. I'm thinking like Hollow Knight. There are whole parts of that game you could just straight up miss if you don't go to them or not even see like the full extent of them. And
Fallen Order has a really cool, huge area you can easily miss.
I would like to see that. I mean,
too,
it's not
dude.
just a project
Yeah.
more recent, but like
Right.
in the absence of proper Metroids, and this is something where the genre has gone and like really done well.
Cool.
This isn't really, I guess, what I would want in Metroid Prime 4, but in a new 2G Metroid, something that I really love about Super Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission in particular is like you can burn through those games in 1 or 2 sittings, and it really feels like a tight adventure. Like Samus is going and doing this specific task, and the game is long enough that it just feels intense and exciting the entire time, but it also feels like you get to see a lot of things. It's not like it's one note the whole way.
You know what? I think
Things are just too long.
Yeah.
They are, Ben. I think another thing they need to take as I think about this, as I think about going back, tracking through areas and having to fight the same monsters just to get more health or rockets that I don't need because I'm topped off.
Right.
Hollow Knight has that currency, and so does Souls games, right?
Right.
This, just this idea that it is always worth it to kill the enemies because it's always accumulating towards something.
You know what's a good feeling? When the game doesn't arbitrarily force you to grind. Like, you don't need to grind to get through it, but something strikes fear enough into you that you want to do it. And you feel good about doing it, and you feel productive about it. You don't need to do that, but the option is there. I love that kind
That's
of
such
design.
a thin line. That's
It
so
is.
funny, man.
It's a very thin line.
Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, where it's like, that thing terrified me. I'm gonna take out these chumps and then take it on. I love that kind of design.
It's funny because that's not Temtem. I did not feel that in
poor
Temtem.
Temtem.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But I get what you mean, like Bloodborne. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude,
Right,
just
right.
yeah. Yes.
And that's not all in the mechanics either. That's also
Yeah.
communicated visually. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
whole thing.
Curious if they would ever dare. Quickly the complaints, not complaints, but like something that comes every time Metroid comes out. Oh, Samus lost all her powers and stuff. You got to go find them again, and like that's like the progress. Like through the game is like you can't unlock this area till you've got this power stuff. Would they deign to borrow from Breath of the Wild and give you everything you're gonna have that you need, your tools from the start, and like go?
Hold on a second. Did you just say would they deign?
Yeah,
Is that a phrase? Would they deign?
Yeah.
Would they deign?
yeah.
I feel like I've heard that before, but like
Is
in
this like a British phrase?
Yeah, from
Would
like,
they deign?
With like elderly British
Maybe it's The
people.
Witcher. The Witcher's rubbing off on me.
Would they deign?
Would they
Where
deign?
did that come from? Sorry, I was so caught up on that, I missed everything else that you said.
I feel like it's just an R that grew a little long when you say would they deign.
Would they deign?
But to the point, instead of like it's the part of the majority of the game is about collecting new abilities, you are given your core set of abilities, and the world is designed around having those, and you trying to figure out how to progress. So, if you come across something and you can't get past, it's actually you can figure out how to get past it. It's not do you lack something, perhaps. I wonder if they do that more so than Zelda. I think that goes against the grain of Metroid. So
Everything we're talking about goes against the grain of
I mean,
Metroid.
this
Yeah.
specifically, I think, is like what might be one of the worst offenders. But if you're looking for trying something new and different, and especially talking like with Metroidvania, it's like you aren't going to get new abilities. You're getting everything you have from the start, and like we designed this world around that, and like which way you go is up to you. I wonder if that would work, or too many people complain.
I just had this thought, like the Souls series is one of my favorite series of video games. It has gone on to inspire other favorite things such as Hollow Knight. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like,
Wow. Dane, to do something that one considers to be beneath one's dignity.
Condescending.
That's very
appropriate,
funny. Yeah.
well used.
yeah.
I'm good on things taking things from Souls. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
like-
yeah.
we did it. We have run that into the
Yes.
ground.
Retro should deign to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think like
I want to take inspiration from other things.
but I mean like people speaking works in Dark Souls.
What?
There's no insane cutscenes of some marine telling me what to do. You know?
Okay,
Right,
forget.
right.
I
Yeah.
get that. I don't like the cutscenes other than maybe like a cinematic intro, like scenic thing introducing like a new environment, but
Yeah.
no dialogue. What they should go back to is like scanning like ancient text or something, like an alien language, and that gives you clues, like Outer Wild style, like to figuring out things about the world.
Yeah.
Like I think that's when Metroid's in the best lore building is when it's presented that way versus like other M where it's just like, okay, no, I don't. Even Corruption was very guilty of like the incorporating so much of like the dialogue and into the cutscenes. I was like, all right, I don't need this. This is not why I play Metroid.
Yeah, I basically. It's funny. This is like a core thing that does not matter. That Samus is just on this mission on her own volition, right? That it's not like, hey, the Space Marines need you to do this, Samus, go do it.
Right.
You know, she's a bounty hunter. Like,
Yes.
I would just, it's weird to me that, like, I like in Super Metroid, she could leave in a second,
Yes.
right? Her ship's right there. She could leave now.
That is something that Kyle, I love that about Metroid, where it's like you don't have those forced cutscenes, you don't have the cute banter, you don't have the like, no, just do the mission. Like, you doing the mission, being on this planet, fighting these things and exploring is interesting enough. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to jam all this bullshit in there.
Yeah.
Metroid Other M jams that bullshit all day long.
Yeah.
Do you like the opening text of Super Metroid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, if Metroid Prime 4 has like a 15-minute cutscene to introduce it and then nothing for the
And then
rest of
gets
it,
out.
I'm okay. Even like I'm fine with that even.
Do you know who else deigned to write into Frame Trap? Daigo Umehara.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. The
This
beast.
is beneath him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Daigo, a legendary. Yes, it is. Daigo Umehara, a legendary Street Fighter player. This is what he had to say.
I gotta hear it.
Yeah, I can't believe it. The incredible knowledge of fighting games that's constantly on display during the show is staggering and helps me keep me company as I continue to train to be the best.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're really humbled.
Inspiring.
I bet you
by
caught
that.
him with the title of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Drew
he,
him in.
Yeah.
And then he was like, wow, I can't believe how accurate that title is to what this show is about. And then he was like, the audience completely agrees with that as well. That people love the title of the show. And then I just can't believe, like, these guys, they just know so much about fighting games because they're always talking about them. It's crazy. It's crazy. Are we ready to move on?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to talk about, this is the happy one.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's fun just saying this title. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE Encore. And I had this thought where I was criticizing Warcraft 3, and I'm thinking about Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and I'm like, well, if you've played the Wii U version, like all of the Wii U version, I don't know that like necessarily there's enough to justify the price point here,
Sure.
but
Which is $60 full on?
I believe it is $60,
Sure.
yeah. But as somebody who played a lot of the Wii U version, didn't finish it, but I played a lot of it, I feel like returning to Tokyo Mirage Sessions just speaks to the quality of that game. Like, I'm having a blast.
Cool.
I'm really having a delightful time, and that speaks to the quality of the design of the game and the tone. And I think a lot of people missed this game. It is not a Warcraft 3 in the sense that it wasn't this huge explosive thing. And so I think if you are inherently opposed to JRPGs and you don't like JRPG bullshit, of which there is a lot. We could talk about JRPG bullshit all the time. You're not going to like this game. All of those things that you probably don't like are present here. But if you do like it, if you have an affinity for it, if you enjoy the bullshit, I feel like this game revels in it in a way that is super fun. Like, I like games. We were talking, I don't know if we were getting to this point on The Witcher or like Dark Fantasy or whatever, but Kyle, I like games that like don't feel like they have to prove something, that are like just okay being weird and goofy. Like, this game leans into Japanese pop idol culture in a way that is just silly and fun. Like, I don't really care about idol culture, and I'm having a great time going and being like, oh, I have to go fight these mirages so I can learn how to be a better performer, and then my the ability of my performance is physically manifested in this sphere energy. And the guy who's training me to get better is just this anime nerd who's talking about, he makes comparisons to this anime that we've never seen. And we were like, oh, we're confused about this anime, and he doesn't care, and he just keeps talking. Like, I don't know. It's just, sometimes it's fun to just slip into a game that wants to give you a good time. That's its only mission, is we want to give you a good time. And I think the other thing that I respect about this is, for those who don't know, this game started as a crossover of Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. And that stuff is there, but it's not like most crossover things, where I feel like most crossover things are so excited by the fact that they're crossing over that they make it their whole thing. Like, oh my God, it's this guy, and now they're fighting, and whoa, look at it. Isn't it cool that they're here? This game doesn't do that. That stuff is very much in the background, not beating you over the head with it. If you don't have knowledge of either of those series, you're really not missing that much. Mm-hmm. There are little references in terms of like, oh, that's the Fire Emblem level up sound. Like, oh, this boss is a reference to a Fire Emblem character. This thing that I'm using is a reference to a Fire Emblem character. You can completely ignore all of that. And it goes out of its way to establish an original world, an original conflict. Well, I mean, the conflict is pretty hackneyed, but its own version of a hackneyed conflict, and its own characters that are really likable and fun, like I said. And it's the design. Like, if it was just that, if it was just the charm, I don't think I'd be so adamant about recommending this game. But what I love is, like, this is a JRPG that isn't afraid to push back. I feel like a lot of JRPGs are too worried that if they're they're long, like they're always going to be long, and if they're challenging, no one's going to play them. And Tokyo Mirage Sessions is not afraid to be like, listen, we put all of this time into these mechanics, and these mechanics are not optional. If you don't use these mechanics, you will fail these boss fights.
Sure.
Do that. Like, and even if you go out of your way to grinding a little bit isn't necessarily like a free pass. You still have to utilize the mechanics, and what they are is, if you attack an enemy's weakness, you can chain together other attacks. So it's like, oh, this guy is weak to spears. You hit him with your spear guy. That triggers a fire attack from this guy. By doing that fire attack, this triggers this electric attack from this other person. So it's this really fun chaining of events. And in Encore, you can speed all that up so it goes faster, which is nice. But the enemy can also do that to you. So if they hit you, they can get all of their buddies to have a free attack. And so you have to pay attention to that stuff. And you have this super meter that builds up, but it builds up very slowly. And so if it's like, oh, if you're just spending it all the time, you're not going to have it for the big boss fight. It's not going to build up in time. And you're probably going to need that to get the edge to get through these pretty ridiculous bosses, which is super fun. And I also love when JRPGs have progression that you're excited about all the time. Like, I hate it when like you just very quickly are like, yeah, I leveled up, and you don't care anymore. You want to be excited about leveling up all the time. You want to be, you always want to be excited about the next thing.
Yeah.
And this is something that Tokyo Mirage Sessions nails, where because it's so important to chain together these abilities, your weapons are actually giving you new skills. And so you're leveling up not only your characters, but you're leveling up your weapons. And when you master that weapon, you're not earning any more skills. And so you have to go and you have to make new weapons. But the way you make new weapons is you have to fight more monsters. And so basically everything is feeding into each other, where it's like, oh, I just killed this monster for the first time. Now I can make a new weapon. Now I can get more skills. And even as you level up, when you get a new weapon, if it's taking you a while to level up your character, when you get a new weapon, you'll get those initial skills quickly. So you'll get that, like, nice dopamine. Like, it's always fun in an RPG when you're, like, in the first 10 levels, and getting a new level takes, like, 10 minutes as opposed to hours, like it sometimes does later on, or whatever. And so you're progressing your character, you're progressing your weapons, you're learning new types of passive abilities, and doing side quests for the characters where you get to know them better and you get a peek into their lives, they'll give you a super useful ability that you can only get for doing that side quest. So you're excited about doing the side quest.
That's
You're
cool.
excited about engaging with the world. Yeah, not all the side quests are great. The ones that specifically focus on the characters are good and give you they're creative, they're fun, but then like ones that are just in the world where it's like, oh hey, go bring me this stuff. It's just some like random person.
But you also get a move from that?
No, you don't. So
okay.
I'm saying the ones that like are focused on your core cast of characters.
Yes.
Those are good. Do those.
Yeah.
The ones where it's just like some person in a dungeon and they're like, bring me this stuff, and then you bring them the stuff, and they give you an item, and it's not even that worthwhile.
Got
so
it.
it's not consistent across the board. But yeah, I'm enjoying playing it. It's long.
Sure.
I'm having a good time. It's a good thing. Like the dungeons are pretty lengthy. And like I said, it's fun just progressing weapons and progressing characters. This almost sounds like a slight against the game, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, I'm in a dungeon now. I'm just going to be doing a lot of battling. I can just turn on a TV show and fight.
Yeah.
It's perfect for that. If
I
that,
get that
sounds appealing to you,
Yeah.
this game has that. But yeah, good game. Not enough people are paying attention to it. So Damiani, you're a big Fire Emblem fan. You're a big JRPG fan. I feel like you're not interested in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and that's totally okay. You don't have to be. But it just seems like something that maybe you would gravitate towards.
So I have a copy of the Wii U version, still unopened, on top of a shelf. I was when this was first announced, I was really excited about this. But you already elaborated on probably why the reason like I had my initial disappointment and probably reservations about the game was that I was expecting the more, oh, look, it's Fire Emblem literally meets Shin Megami Tensei or perhaps Persona, and it's like, oh, strategy-based stuff, like SRP. Right. I was hoping it was going more the SRPG route, maybe, with like a heavy emphasis on social, which actually, ironically, Three Houses kind of fulfills mechanically what I was hoping to get out of it. But like my excitement for it kind of diminished when I found out what it was really going to be. But then it got a lot of praise and stuff, and like this is a game, especially now the Switch version's out, and especially when the Switch version was announced, I was like, I need to go play this game. I've heard a lot of good things about this game, and I actually at least give it a try. I will say, like idol culture, I'm not really into that either.
Yeah.
I generally tend to like games that focus on like younger looking high school age characters. Like it's always a toss up for me. I mean, it's a hurdle I can get over, but like it's always like, I'd rather go with something that chooses something a bit more unique for their cast of characters. But I mean, everything you said about it, like it sounded like the hint of the Fire Emblem system. Like you said, like attack a weak point, but then like it does like like you can do like a sword and like a fire. It sounds like that kind of like cycle, like that that chain attack is kind of like their spin on not just like the elemental weakness, but also like the triangle system as well. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool to hear about that.
Right. It's funny because I feel like if it was maybe a more on the nose crossover, it probably would have done better as a game. Like it would have gotten more attention.
Yeah.
But I actually respect the path that they took. I feel like they took the road less traveled, and I think it makes it a more interesting game. Another quick thing about the battle system that is interesting. I love in games where you get a new skill, and like Pokemon is like this sometimes, where you get a new move and you're like, okay, this new move seems awesome, but I really like the moves that I have, and so I don't feel like there's a perfect solution here. I have to sacrifice something, and I may end up regretting that. This game has that. Like, at a certain point, you will be all full up on skills, and you're going to have to get rid of something, and there was a moment where I was like, I don't know. Did I make the right choice? And yeah, I think that's the mark of a good system where there are some games where I'm upgrading my character and I almost feel like the game is doing it for me. Like I'm not really making any decisions. So
yeah, it's good to hear that. I mean, obviously, like that's not like Fire Emblem's strength. I mean, like in general, it's like, oh, which weapon do I take in, and do
Right.
I have other people to cover for that? If I have no, like, it's who?
It's a strategy game.
But like the Shin Megami Tensei end of it, like that sounds more intriguing. I'm kind of curious because this one I don't know the lexicon, like the terminology they use in here. Is it more heavily reliant on like the Shin Megami Tensei universe, like spells and stuff?
So spells
or
are
unique?
are SMT spells.
Okay.
So ice is Bufu.
Bufu. Okay, yeah.
That's
what I was curious about.
Lightning is Zeo, that sort of thing.
Okay,
But like that stuff, I mean, you pick up on it.
Oh yeah, no,
pretty
it's
quickly.
nice that they did. I didn't know if they
Yeah.
crafted like a unique lexicon just for this.
No,
which
no.
would have been a little
They're
strange.
they're taking spell names from Shin Megami Tensei.
The Switch version.
Yeah.
If this is like huge spoilers for like in terms of differences, and if you don't know yet, that's cool.
Yeah.
Added like cameos or anything like that. Like
So
I saw
there-
like a trailer and it showed like some stuff, and I was like,
Yeah,
what is this?
There's a Persona 5 Joker outfit that you can get, which I haven't gotten yet.
Okay.
And I believe, and I haven't done these yet either, I believe there are like EX side story quests that you can do that are unique to this version. But I have to be careful because I haven't done those yet either,
Okay.
so I can't really
Okay.
speak to those. But
There's extra stuff for all the stuff that was previously in like
all the DLC that was in the
Nice.
Wii U version is in this version.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that helps justify the price a little bit better than
Right.
something like Tropical Freeze, which
Yeah.
like it's like here's just the game again, and like understandably people are upset about that, but like something that
Right.
includes like all the old content plus some new stuff, that's pretty nice.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. I maybe this is wrong to assume, but I feel like almost no one played Tokyo Mirage Sessions, so I feel like I'm almost talking. It's not, but I almost feel like I'm talking about it as a new game, and maybe that is being too generous about it. Like maybe I should be more discerning about its full price point, but either way, I really do think it's enjoyable. If you have a capacity for some bullshit, it's really fun. But yeah. Would you guys like to hear another testimonial?
Oh yeah, of course.
There's more?
There's more.
Wow.
Yeah, they just keep coming. So one of my favorite people in the industry, one of my favorite just directors, people, like, I don't know, this person has I really look up to this person.
Okay.
And that is Hideki Kamiya,
Oh, cool.
creator of many incredible games.
Yeah.
And this is what he had to say about Frame Trap. This show sucks.
Oh.
It's actually kind of a compliment coming from him.
Is it?
Yeah.
He could have said worse.
He didn't use profanity. Yeah, he didn't
said
use
worse.
profanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like neutral for him. Yeah.
He could have blocked us all, and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe he did.
Oh, yeah. Well, he
But
spoke
yeah,
about you. That's good.
it is. It is time for the 100th HOTTAKE! Double chop on that one.
Double chop.
And this may end up being a poor decision, but I had a thought. And I was like, 100 episodes, we've done a lot of HOTTAKEs. Some of them are fun, goofy ones. Some of them are serious, heavily criticizing the industry or questioning the industry or things that were going on. And I was like, well, let's turn that inward. Let's HOTTAKE Easy Allies.
Please.
Let's get brutal about us.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, maybe to start off this conversation, to the both of you, what do you think is different now with Easy Allies compared to 4 years ago?
To episode 1?
Well, you can look outside of Frame Trap as well. You can look into Frame Trap, but just in general with Easy Allies.
So I was thinking about this a lot, Ben, is community. At the end of game trailers, I think we were finally starting to build a community. When I first joined game trailers, it didn't seem like there was a community.
There's definitely a time at game trailers where I felt like I was just kind of making stuff into a void.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was normal.
Yes.
And that was just how you ran a website, right?
Right.
The sense of community I've gotten throughout the last 4 years is insane. It is what Easy Allies is to me. It's just a group of people who appreciate us, who keep us afloat. And so, yeah, I think that, like, personally, I think of my obligations toward this community a lot. I think of, not wanting to disappoint them, wanting to do good things for them, what they will like, just like the community is going to hate this, and here's why. Running all of my ideas through that filter a lot, personally.
Maybe to just flip that on its head.
Yeah.
I think we do have a strong sense of community here. Like
Yeah.
there are a lot of people, when I see them in Twitch chats, like I immediately know that person. I know who that is. I've seen them for years. Do you think that presents a risk at all where maybe like you're too in your own bubble and you're not aware of you're maybe catering too hard to a small number of people rather than taking a broader look? Is that a danger?
Yeah, it's funny. It's because because of Patreon, right? Because we exist out of people's generosity. I do feel like you got to kind of make your patrons happy.
Yes.
First, that should be goal number one. Is because whatever income they have, they're giving a portion of it to us just to exist. So that's already like pretty crazy. And so yes, Ben, especially as artists, you should be making your own thing that you want to be making. That should be your first goal, and that is really what the patrons want anyway. They want you to be making the things that you want to be making. But yeah, that's such a hard thing. Is I do consider it, maybe over consider it for sure. But yeah, I do feel like there's an absolute obligation there.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thinking about to put that in perspective too, Kyle. Like I feel like thinking about the evolution in terms of 4 years of like that process as well, like transitioning from game trailers to easy allies and what we were trying to do at the beginning, where it was like, what do we even do with this? Like, do we bring back older shows? Do we do what do we do? And and like Patreon was still new to us, but we were like, hey, like we're just gonna do what we want to do, what we thought was gonna work, I guess, with like the resources that we had. It's like This is like our best plan of attack, and seeing how that's evolved. Like the thing is, I do agree with you. I do agree on a personal level, of feeling a responsibility towards what is in the best interest, not like of us as well as patrons, because they come first and foremost. And then, like, obviously, streaming stuff, it's like, what would get Twitch subscribers? Like, I deal with a little bit of that as well.
Sure.
But like, you're still feeling obligated to an audience, one or the other, but more heavily towards Patreon, obviously. But like your question, Ben, though, about like, sometimes it does feel a little like, maybe not insular, but like having some blind spots, because like you are so focused on this, and like when something's working like this, it's making them happy, everyone's happy, the machine is like running like a well-oiled machine, it's working. But at the same time, I do tend to like look just as much as I've ever done at what other people are doing content wise, because I like to see like what are the current trends, what is popular, and what about those. I like trying to figure out what makes that thing popular, because a lot of it can always be attributed to personality, but like there's always something about content. There's usually a few things they do that's like, wow, that's the thing. Like they thought of that. Like it seems simple, but no one was doing that before, but they're doing it, and that's it. That's the difference between theirs and everyone else who's doing this right here. Is like you're a genius, whether you realize it or not. But like there are times here where I feel like looking at that content, like it's the part of the equation here that I haven't alluded to is like there's 9 of us, and like 9 of us, how we figured out how to work together or work individually on our own things, like that system there. It does feel like there's times that over the past 4 years, like we're at a point now where there are certain things that like they're definitely are intriguing to try, but like it would take more than an individual effort, and it would like have to divert things. And now you have to like think about that. Like, is this something that is worth doing? Because the payoff, if it works, would be great. But if it fails, what have you taken away to make this work? And now you've like ruined, you took those away from patrons who wanted to pay for those, and at the same time, you've just done something that you said you believed in and it failed. It's like, how does that reflect on you? Like, it feels like there's a lot more pressure on you need to do something that is going to work. Like, you can't take as many risks. I feel like if you do a risky thing, it doesn't pay off. It's like I feel like feeling that not backlash from the audience, but like a personal backlash of like a voice inside your head saying, remember how that went wrong? Like, don't do that again. Like, you need to like stick to things that are a little bit more safer that fit in there. And I kind of worry about that sometimes. Like, I wonder for like, especially for me specifically, I worry if that has like become the predominant way I think about things, especially on a subconscious level, because it feels like 4 years ago, I was definitely like, oh, like crazy stuff. Like, especially even at game trailers towards the end, like even before the end, I was like, there's so many crazy things we can do here and stuff. Like, I want to try and stuff. And now it's like, I feel way more reserved about a lot of things now than I did back then. And because I don't want to like upset the balance and like respect that we have a team of like, it's a team thing. It feels more of a team now. Like, I don't want to, like, it's not shit talking on game trailers at all. Like, there was a different type of team back then.
Absolutely.
And it was like, it felt like a social team more, like, than anything. But, like, a lot of hard work went into that. But this is more of, like, I feel like a legitimate team where we're all working towards, we need to all be working towards something because it's like, it's our thing now. We own this. It's ours.
Yeah.
And it's a different level of pressure, I feel, than I felt ever before. And I wonder if how that has changed my perspective on wanting to try out new things, because it's a greater degree of responsibility, because like the eight other people I work with here, it's like you face to face, you see them, like there is a level of a little bit more of protection, I think, when you're at a bigger company and stuff, where it's like you just have to like you're responsible to your boss. You can work with your coworkers and stuff. If you don't like them, whatever, you just got to get along. But like that doesn't work here. You have to like that has to work. So yeah.
Yeah. I think something that you said in there that I find is super true is and I don't want to speak for anybody else, but from my perspective, like, I genuinely like and get along with all of you guys. Like, we could sit around and argue about something like we do in Game of the Year, and I walk away from that with zero hard feelings or any sort of attacks or anything. It's just like, I just know these guys so well. I know where they're coming from. I feel like we can get in a room and be honest with each other, and it can be constructive, and I'm really grateful for that. I don't think you get that in a lot of places. I don't think there are many places you can work where it's as in sync with each other as we often are. And it's not all the time, but more often than not, I feel like that's true. With that being said, the way Easy Allies started, the way that it kind of felt is, like, when we did this thing, we had zero expectations.
Yeah.
And that is very important to understand because of how it informed us going forward. And so when it took off and it got huge, we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so I think it was very much like, okay, Brandon's going and he's handling this. Blood is going and he's handling this. Huber's doing this. Kyle is doing this. Ian is doing this. And in a lot of ways, that's still the case. Like,
still riding off that initial momentum.
No. I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's still a low number of us and a lot to do, and people are kind of they have specific responsibilities, and so I think sometimes that can make collaboration a little bit tough, because it's like, oh man, I want to do this thing with this person, but I have these responsibilities and they have those responsibilities, and that's gonna take their whole week. So when are we gonna do this new thing? Mm-hmm. And that's neither the person who wants to do it nor the person that they want to collaborate with's fault, but there are times where it's just like, I wish it was a little bit easier to just go and make something with somebody else. Because I feel like in some ways we're all making things individually by necessity, and sometimes I wish we were, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense to me, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, yeah, I the one thing I mean, I think about this a lot, especially over like maybe the like last year specifically. Like thinking about like the future of Easy Allies and stuff, and like and you asking this question now, to put it in perspective, I do think, yeah, like to put it bluntly, I do feel like it would be better for Easy Allies, as well as potentially our patron. I think our patrons and our community at large would rather see this, is more things like if we were to like take Easy Allies now and like cut everything, I would say, like besides like maybe the main podcast and maybe Frame Trap, and just nuke everything else and come up with like 3 or 4 more ideas. Not a lot. It's not quantity, it's quality. 3 or 4 more shows, regular shows that involve multiple allies together, produce shows. I think that is like if I'm being honest, that's what the community wants. Like that's what the patron there are a lot of patrons who are giving us money for whatever reason to do what we really want to do. They may not care about that as much, but like I think if you ask the majority of them, the honest answer, like their true feelings, would be what I'm saying as well. Like I want to see you all doing stuff. They love when they see us like doing skit. Like I just want to see you guys like get together, do like a cool betting special like once every like 2 or 3 months. Can you make that happen, or can you just like do a scripted show? Like it'd be once a month, but like just like get like 4 or 5 of you together and just do that. Like that's all you have to do. Like I do feel like going forward, like that would be like the best course of action. But at the same time, it speaks to like how we do have a really good company. Or sorry, community. You have a good company, but a good community. Sorry, that is very like generous to us. That they are happy as long as we seem happy and are making stuff. They seem to be happy with it. But at the same time, I do feel this degree of like, it's like a voice in your head says like you can do, like it's like the voice saying like do more with your life, like do more with this. Like they're like even like this is your thing. You don't get, not many people get this chance. And not many people get to be in this position. And it's like, don't squander this. Like, don't get complacent because things are going well and what you're doing is working, because there's always an expiration date on everything. And, you know, it could be like next month, you know, or, you know, 10 years from now, or even longer than that like Easy Ally is not what it is anymore, or like goes away, or whatever happens. And it's like, do you want to look back and be like, man, I really wish I'd done this thing with, you know, when I had the chance, because now I'm like working, you know, dumb job or whatever, you know, I'm working at PR jobs here because it's all I could get, or whatever you're doing at that point.
PR jobs are cool.
Yeah, I mean, but like,
no, they're not dumb jobs.
But like, let me clarify. From my perspective, no PR job's gonna beat like what we're doing right now.
Yes.
So it might be another phase of your life. Like, I mean, great new people and stuff like that. But the actual work I do, I don't think will necessarily be like, it won't be remotely the same as this.
Yeah.
But I also can't say it might be as satisfying. There might be something I do in the future that's like way more gratifying I just don't know about yet. Like that's the beauty about possibilities. But yeah, I do think, like, I think about this a lot and stuff, but like it also starts to lead into like it feeds into my anxiety. And like it leads towards like the existential crisis moments where I'm like, oh gosh, I start thinking about things I don't need to think about. Like this puts me in like, I'm gonna have a breakdown. Like stop, like walk away from this now and stuff. Like it's hard because I want to think about it. Because I want to be able to challenge it and like think of like good solutions. But at the same time, like it's also like a very terrifying prospect because it asks you to think about things you're like usually the most scared about, like finality, ends, and stuff like that. And it's like the worst thing you can think about, because I think most people get by in the back of the head accepting it will happen at some point, but don't actually face it until the last minute. And they would rather ignore its existence than try and do something, like think about it, which might incentivize them or motivate them, like do something more with the time you're given than just like sitting back and like just enjoying the ride.
Something that I get the feeling about with Easy Allies, as somebody who does a lot of like the editorial coverage and is involved with like non-editorial stuff as well, sometimes I feel like I'm pulled between different worlds, and both things take a lot of time. And then sometimes I see that schism of frustration in the audience as well, and it makes complete sense to me, where they're like, why aren't you guys playing more and covering more? And it's like, yes. However, that takes a lot of time. And I'm not saying woe is me. It's just the fact of the matter, like, that takes a lot of time.
Right.
Reviews take a lot of time.
We'll be building Gundam models for 5 hours next week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
So it is like these two sides. I get that.
yes, it is. It's completely different worlds, and like the fun, goofy, comedic, more scripted side also takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of time and energy. To be funny and to be creative, you need time and space to let those things happen. You can't make that like in a factory. You just can't do it. And so sometimes I feel like, all right, we're not doing either one of these as well as we could be because we're trying to do both.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy doing both. The reason why it is the way that it is I think a lot of us enjoy doing both. And so that's why things have continued the way that they have. But I do often get this sense that like, either one of these facets could be a lot better if more complete energy was put into them.
I know. I agree with everything you said. It's totally true, and you probably would know one of the best. Like probably with all the stuff you're like feel pulled between trying to do all that.
Right.
But again, like feeding into like facing the harsh truth. There are parts of me that like think that like at some point we might have to just make a call and say like we aren't going to be able to do in the current form we do it. We can't do it like this mythical elevation of both isn't going to work. There's the only one of two options. Kill one and focus on the other, do that one exceptionally well and we reach new heights, or you have to reimagine how you're doing both and come up with a whole new way to like merge them and do something brand new, which is even more challenging than that. Right. And you know, that's the scary route. I think it has the bigger payoff, but like it also is the biggest pitfall if it doesn't go well. And either of those process, I think, is gonna force people to like confront, you know, complacency. It's like this is a big change. You're going almost all of us would have to like give up something you really like doing, and then it's like the hard question: is this why you like being here? Like you see where I'm getting. It starts asking all those questions, and you know they start coming to your mind. And I feel like there are times where like, what is more valuable to you? Are you happy in this moment, and do you like that happiness, and do you not want to stir the pot because it could lead to like ruining that happiness, and you can maybe never get that back. No matter what path you go forward, you just ruin something and you'll never get back to that level. But if you don't, there's that what if of like, we could be better. We could totally be like bigger, whatever it is in our heads that we have for us. But unless you stir that pot, you can't go there. And it's like, it's terrifying. But like how close we are and stuff, it's like, I never want to be that one person. I'm not doing that. It's like, that's not me. Like if there's like a group of people who want to like do that, I will like, we can discuss this, but like I will never be that one person's like, here we go, we're getting pushed off the edge. Here we go, because like that's like that's too much. Like you know the weight on your shoulders. Like nope, that's not me. I can't do that. I'm terrified of that. That's why like I'll probably like never be like in charge of anything like that. It's like I'm just not that.
It is hard because I don't think any of us are like in charge.
Yeah, that's that's also part of the thing too. I think like it's no one wants to do that, so it's like okay. I mean, what's the saying? Like, never mind. But like the point I'm trying to get across, like you know, there's nothing wrong with having like enjoying and reveling in simplicity. I guess like if you're good enough of where you are and you're happy, there's nothing wrong with like taking that and embracing that. Like for each person, they have their different needs and wants and where they want to push themselves. And it's like, if you feel completely satisfied with where you're at, like you don't, I think it's okay. But like, be warned though, that like there is the saying if there's too much of a good thing is very true. Like you can reach a point where it's like you've had something so much for so long that it becomes so common it loses what was special about it. Mm-hmm. So I urge you to like that's why I was saying like the whole thing in my back of my head, like do something while you have the time, because like you might kill the thing you love but through inaction actually. So like that whole thing about like no, I'm not gonna be the one to push it, you know, who's to say like, you know, by not doing that, one of us not doing that, it's like it spoils it for everyone as well. Like it's this whole existential crisis thing. Like I hate
No, I love that.
Like
Damiani.
yeah,
It's
thinking
fun.
on these paths, it's
fun to
like
listen to this.
like these are the real like terrors and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like yeah, because these are things that matter. Like these are things that like change your life and stuff. And it's like ooh,
It is
yeah.
really interesting, Ben, because I think that is a huge difference from week 1 to week wherever we're episode 100 right now. Is that Easy Allies is the careers of the 9 of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is how we subsist and live, and it wasn't that when we were planning everything.
No.
And it was like, hey, let's just do some goofs,
Right.
Let's get Damiani in even, it's just like, yeah, let's just do this, and so
It was like literally, let's just do some goofs.
yeah. And so it is dramatically different in that way, and that it's a business now.
Yeah.
And Damiani, those things that you say ring so true. It's really interesting.
I mean, yeah. Do either of you even think about like Easy Allies existing beyond us? Like one day, like we're so old and stuff that like, younger people need to come in and like do what we do, or like,
I actually do.
like
I see it
all
as
of us
like
moving on one day, and like it's
a
just like
gradual replacement.
yeah, like it's a whole different like cast.
And not immediate though.
Yeah.
Not like the new what is it? The new class? Saved by the Bell, the new
Yeah,
class.
not like that.
Not like that.
But over time, like
Yeah.
someone just pauses and goes,
Like Giant Bomb.
"That's the last original member. They're gone. Like
Yeah.
this is a whole new crew."
Yeah, I think one day Giant Bomb will be completely different people who weren't there at the beginning.
Yeah,
You know who it's gonna be? Milo.
yeah.
Milo, Jones's son, Milo.
Jones's son, Milo. I guess
Yeah.
I should. I just acted like everybody knew who Milo was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. He's the final one who replaces Jones, and then it's a completely new cast at that point. Or are you saying he's the first of the replacements? I feel like Milo's the last. It's the key.
Milo's
and so
the last,
It's
okay.
still that legacy. It's like the Screech is still here. That's how Saved by the Bell the new class works.
I
Screech
know,
was still
Screech was
there.
still
yeah,
there,
yeah.
yeah.
And so it's kind of that.
Yeah,
It's like we still got a
thread
Jones.
of continuity there.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
But no, Damiani, I do think of it existing for a long time. I think that basically it's so weird. We're going to be forced to be flexible in that our jobs are so weird. Twitch is so weird. Twitch will not be the same 1 year from now. It's just
Boy.
all this constantly changing.
I think. Yeah, man. I think Twitch and YouTube are completely different than they were at their inception.
Yeah.
In ways that are bad,
Yeah.
but they're completely different.
Yeah.
And real talk, I think it is easy for us to be like, oh man, we were able to build an audience and we, had the right ideas at the right time. I think it's easy to say that, but honestly and truly, I think if Game Trailers wasn't a video-focused site that, in its own way, was priming itself to transition to new platforms that rose to prominence, I don't think it would have made it. I think if Game Trailers was primarily a text-based site,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think we would be here.
No.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot of text-based
Yeah.
sites
Right.
drop off.
Some might would have been hastened. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Do a whole retro on that someday.
Retros was one of those things.
Milo's gonna want to
Let's
produce.
keep doing retros. Yeah.
Milo's
yeah.
gonna be like, I'm presenting the game trailers a retrospective
God.
Yeah.
with interviews.
Please,
with,
Milo.
Oh no.
Yeah.
There was something I was gonna say, but I forgot now. Never mind.
I feel like we could spend a long time talking
Yeah.
about
Oh, that was a HOTTAKE.
Oh, yeah.
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 But
yeah.
I don't know. I worry, like, for episode 100, I was like, okay, let's turn it inward. But I also am constantly afraid of, like, I don't want it to look like navel gazing because I think that sucks
Yeah.
too.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, I
sure.
want. I guess I just wanted to invite the audience into the idea that we're thinking about us too.
Yeah.
And we want to get better too. And I don't want to do that all the time. I think doing it all the time is a little much. But
Yeah,
100
I like
episodes.
having little windows into Damiani's anxiety.
Yeah. Are we ready for some emails?
Yeah.
I've got a fun one to start us off
Oh boy.
for episode 100.
Yeah.
Regular email contributor Brandon had some fun things to share with us. Framesharp 100 stats, facts, and other.
Oh, these are good.
science
Yeah.
tidbits.
These are very good. Very, very, very good.
I'm not going to be. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
There's a massive amount here, so I'm not going to be able to read all of this. But there's some good stuff here. Congratulations on reaching the milestone of 100 episodes of deep dive discussions, HOTTAKEs, and getting caught and subsequently breaking out of The Namesake. To celebrate, I thought I would compile some fun stats to look back and see how the show has evolved. The longest episode to date was episode 80, Heart Collector, at 3 hours, 56 minutes, and 5 seconds. What's special about this episode is special guest Maximilian Dude, who I would love to get back.
Okay.
Stop by to talk about Mortal Kombat and the state of fighting games. But episode 36, A Neon Green X, and episode 21, A Rush of Games, came very close at 3 hours, 53 minutes, and 33 seconds. And 3 hours, 51 minutes, and 36 seconds, respectively.
4 hours remains the goal.
4 hours remains the goal.
Yeah.
But 5 hour frame trap kind of became a meme, and that hasn't happened yet. Fun note about episode 21 is it also featured a special guest with Ryan Stevens, who is the only other guest to appear on Frame Trap besides Max, unless you want to account the enigmatic Don Casanova, who actually appeared on episode 85, Making Mario. It's so frustrating because Don has anxiety about being on podcasts, which I understand.
Yeah.
But he's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not blowing smoke up his ass. He just does a good job.
Yeah.
That's why people want him on the show.
Yeah.
We love you, Don. On the opposite end of the length, one would think a Noodles and Broth episode would be the shortest Frame Trap because of the constraints of E3, but shockingly, episode 13, An Exciting Time for RPGs, had a runtime of only 50 minutes and 1 second.
Oh, poor RPGs.
It is the only Frame Trap that is under an hour.
Wow.
And while Frame Trap has earned its reputation for being a lengthy podcast, it didn't start out that way. While the first 4 episodes hovered around 2 hours, the next 3 were closer to an hour and a half. It wasn't until episode 9, Pokemon Go Fever and Fighting Game Highs, did the normal average of around 2.5 hours become a much more common occurrence. Did you know Frame Trap actually didn't first go beyond 3 hours until episode 20, The Dragon Rises?
Yes, I knew that.
Oh.
I knew that.
Frame Trap Superfan. And wow, did it break the length record at that time in style, blowing past 3 hours and settling just a little more than 3.5. Quick note about Noodles and Broth. Half have not received an episode number, while the first 2 did. Episodes 6 and 31 are not recognized, but for 2018 and 19, these specials are not identified as a numbered entry. It's pretty fun to go back and see how the flow of
That's
titles...
an issue. Yeah, that's an issue to me.
of titles across Frame Trap's history. The very first episode was What Do We Want Out of Final Fantasy 15? Final Fantasy 15 was a focus across many Frame Traps, and I'll get to that a little later, but in this context, it was the thumbnail to the aforementioned episodes 1, 13, and episode 18, a Final Fantasy 15 and PSX extravaganza. But the funniest video titles go to episode 2, which is called What in the World is Wrong with Warcraft? Then episode 12 is Warcraft is Back. Episode 12 is also where the Easy Allies logo, which had just been in the opening title edit in every episode prior, was dropped. And from that episode forward, the title has just been Frame Trap without the branding. There is so much to dig into here. Brandon, thank you for compiling this. I'm sorry we're not going to be able to read all of this on the air, but it means a lot to me that you went through and meticulously did all of these minute little facts. That's fun.
That's very good.
Yeah. Our next email is from Brandon, who says, devalued, ? Greetings, allies. There seems to be a good deal of secrecy around the profit models for developers and publishers as we move into the inevitable streaming and subscription-based future. I've heard some anecdotes from EZA and other outlets about how developers are happy having their games on Game Pass, but it's still somewhat unclear. The attached photo is from the 2020 State of the Industry report published by DDC. For listeners, the question posed to developers was, are you concerned that subscription services will devalue games? And the answers are split almost evenly. 27% say yes, 28% say maybe, and 26% say no. It seems to indicate that some game makers are in on it while others are not. Do you guys have any insight or guesses as to how developers will get paid under this new model? Do you have any fears that this will lead to less games being made because there's less profit to be made? Very interesting question.
No insight. I do not have an insight into how people are paid through subscription models, and I do think they do try to keep that even NDA'd. I think they don't want other games knowing what other games are making. Do I fear that we'll get fewer games? I don't. I mean, there could be fewer games. There's just thousands and thousands of games in a year. that don't make money. I don't know. It's so freaky. It's freaky to see how hard it is on Steam to make $1, you know, to even profit. And so like you could say like, hey, it could be healthy to have fewer games, but what's funny is each of those games is a vision. Even the trashy ones, no, some of them do not have vision, excuse me. But a lot of those games have vision. A lot of them are from artists. And so it's hard to say like, oh yeah, I hope it becomes harder to make video games. But yeah, I don't. It's just like I'm scared of Netflix. I'm scared like Netflix does not run a profit, right? I'm scared that these streaming deals are existing now because they have to exist. You have to pay these studios this much money to even get them to say yes to you. I am scared of all of this kind of falling through. Absolutely. Same as I am with Netflix. I could see it stop working, and then I could see us returning to a model that is already continuing. So I could see streaming kind of like slow down, exclusive deals with streaming slow down.
Are you talking about just with games or with video as well?
With games. With video, it's hard to go back.
Right.
I can't see cable on the rise.
I think it's reasonable to assume that we're going to reach that point with games very quickly, where it's going to be too hard to go back.
Yeah.
Because I think once you condition an audience to something, I don't think you can revert that.
Yeah. I mean, look at what happened 20 years ago. Music was going that way, and everyone's like, oh, technology, like internet speeds aren't fast enough for movies and stuff like that. But like people are like, it's coming and stuff. And like, it's coming. And then like it absolutely did come. Like they all follow suit and stuff. Your question about the part about whether or not we think there might be fewer games, I think
devaluing games, and I think that's an interesting way to phrase it.
Was there a part about like developers making less games or something like that? Or at the end of it, I thought, or did I just mishear that? Sorry.
Do you have any fears that will lead to less games because being made because there's less profit to be made?
So that point right there, I think we're not there yet, but once physical media is no longer the dominant media in video games in terms of that, or you are reliant on having to be on a certain service and you are not in control of that, you have to rely on them. It's like the old network mentality, like TV network, where it's like, you're not valuable enough to be on here. You don't get to be on here. And everyone rejects you. Where do you go then? Like you try and like self-publish, like you have a streaming deliverable, like your system can't play it, like, and there's no more physical media, like just like put it out like on a website or something for people to download. Like that, no, it's a console, you can't do that. It's like, oh, okay, so you got to go the indie PC route, or you're just not on consoles anymore. And it's like, oh, that's I can see that reality happening like maybe a generation from now. And some publishers being strong-armed out because like their games aren't seen as valuable to the service, like or else they're gonna have to take such a low cut that's not worth it to them that they don't make enough money back on. They don't get enough return on their investment for their game. Yeah,
I do want to say I think there are very few game designers who step in with the intention of making money.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other careers to go chase if you want to become rich. However, we do have game publishers who are very concerned with becoming rich, and I think you kind of already see it. You already see Activision and EA making fewer and fewer games on a given year. Maybe Ubisoft as well if we really track the numbers. And so, I can see a future where there are fewer games. It's the same. I can see a future where there are fewer Netflix exclusives on a given week. You look at Disney Plus, it's like you're already bored with it. Like, when's the next thing? When's the next thing? I think that's like the future for everybody. It's like, well, I want more. Because it's just simply not sustainable to make as many things as we want.
I would maybe argue that humanity just has that problem in general.
Yeah.
Beyond just streaming.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just feeling especially optimistic, but I feel like we've been through so many panics where it's like, mobile is the future. Consoles are going to die.
Yeah, that panic sucked.
That panic sucked ass.
Yeah.
Oh, everything has to be free to play. It's the viable business model. Single player games are dying. You have to have multiplayer. Like all of these things. Like DLC is going to ruin everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying everything is good. It's not. It's not everything. Not everything is good. There are things that certainly deserved to be scrutinized and things that need to be improved. But right now, I'm almost amazed at how many things are coexisting relatively successfully. And there are different games that are taking different avenues, and they're all working. And there are certainly failures as well. I'm not trying to throw things under the bus, but you are getting single-player games. You are getting releases of older games that are doing very well. You're getting remakes and remasters. You're also getting totally new games. You're getting games that are existing on a subscription model. You're getting games that are doing well on a subscription service. You're getting free-to-play games. You're getting mobile games that are not influencing, they're not taking anything away. You're getting, like, through through Kickstarter, you're getting genres like almost resurrected.
Yeah.
And so there's so much happening that it's hard for me to point to one thing and be like, oh, this is it. This is going to doom us. When I feel like the industry has fought very hard against that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, don't we see year after year many good games get rewarded just by virtue of being good?
Yeah.
Like we talked about Stardew Valley, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess, like, I hear it more in, like, film, though. Like, Oscar-winning movie or Oscar-nominated movie doesn't do financially well.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, so to that point, I could see that even making something that's good and well-received doesn't automatically guarantee it's going to, even from their own, like, point of view, successful for them. But I don't know if we're hearing any more of that generally than any time before. So I wouldn't really want to argue that point. But what this made me think about is when we were talking a little bit earlier, like streaming catalogs, like what you're seeing a lot of them do, especially Netflix, is like just trying to get anything because they just want to have as diverse amount of like even like the small things. Like, we just need something because as you said, people want something new. So you just throw a lot of crap up there. Good stuff with the crap. It's like someone will at least try it and like, bought me like a day or something. Maybe that will have the opposite effect of what I was arguing earlier, that like you might see more games being made because they need to fill that need. Like there's a demand for that on these like streaming services. We need more games. Like there's such a high demand for them. Please just get like it.
They're going to be Warcraft 3s though. They're going to be rushed out.
Yeah, they're not going to be great games, but like at the same time, it might be like, it could lead to the whole thing like when we look at like the eShop or any storefront when they have all those like 99-cent or less games that are trashed and stuff. It's like you might see a lot of that just on the streaming service catalog because they need it, or it does open up like Microsoft are spending a lot of money. Hey, we need things on like our Game Pass. Like we need more now. Like we need way more. So like let's pay for this, pay for that, pay for this. And it's like these games that start happening they're funded. It's like we don't have to worry about that because we're on here and stuff like that. Whether or not you get invited back might be a different story depending on how your performance, but. Yeah. It might offer a different way. Like some games might thrive better on there because like that barrier to entry is no longer like a $60 sale or $40 sale. It'll be interesting to see. Like I don't feel exactly qualified to like even make like the greatest prediction on this. Right. But like I could totally see a future where like things go like crisscross. Like things go inverts. Like wait. Things don't work the exact same way we think they work now, but based on like predominantly physical sales, because like that gap's closing. They're like the percentage of what are digital, what are physical, and then like percent of what either is just streaming. When that future comes that like it's all predominantly streaming, I think I think the landscape will look a lot different with some familiar things, but like there are a lot of unexpected things we didn't predict were going to happen. Obviously,
I think it's hard speaking in absolutes.
Yeah,
right?
It's
Just anecdotally, I feel like I've had people reach out and they'll be like, "Oh, this game is on PlayStation Plus or it's on Game Pass or whatever it is," and I heard you mention it once. Like, should I give it a shot? And I feel like that is happening where there are so many games. You mentioned just the sheer number of games that are released in a given year. It's overwhelming. But when you put them on the service, when you lower that barrier, as you said, it may create an opening that wasn't there before. It also might mean that it gets swallowed when those services balloon. Yeah. So it's hard to land on a definitive answer.
I am waiting for that future where we have the same 4 or 5 classic juggernaut games, bounce around between services every few months.
No, that's no.
Like the entire Star Trek catalog is on Netflix this month. Now it's going over to Amazon, and now you're gonna see it on Hulu. Like, I want to see like the new Assassin's Creed. It's on Games Pass exclusively this month. Next month it's on PlayStation Plus, and then after that it's on Nintendo service. Like, oh man, that's gonna be so hilarious.
Damiani, as somebody who is enthusiastically getting into Star Trek for the very first time, it's infuriating. Where it's like, oh, like these 4 Star Trek movies are on Netflix, but then these 4 original Star Trek movies are on CBS All Access, and some of them are like, it sucks. And then sometimes they change. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm gonna put this on my list, and then you go to watch it and it's gone because of some licensing deal. And it's a hellscape.
Yeah.
No, it's not that bad. Our last email comes in from Morgan. Dear panel, I have the hardest time putting together a reliable squad in games. This locks me out of content I really want to experience, including the heists of GTA Online, the raids in Destiny, or even picking up The Division or Monster Hunter World. I have tried to play with randoms only to be left frustrated and disappointed. Using the mic and trying to talk to other players doesn't seem to help either, as I am often met with hostility and vulgarities for no reason.
Yeah.
Upon reflection, I believe the system is utterly broken. Some of the best content in games requires that I have 3 to 5 friends who own the same console, own the same game. We can all commit 5 hours at the same time with solid, uninterrupted connection. I am on the verge of writing this type of gaming off altogether because of the past 5 years. It has never worked out for me. Am I missing something? Is this something that developers could improve and make more accessible? Any tips for this situation? Any help is greatly appreciated.
This is so funny. Do you remember? I don't even know if this is beloved or not. Xbox announced like the communities.
Oh, yeah.
And this was not even that long ago. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Just like, it'll be easier to find other gamers who want to play the games exactly like you, and you can squad up.
Well, like on 360, you could set out like beacons for certain games. Like, I want to play this game. And I want to play Street Fighter 4 with people, and you could like ping it out to your friends. The
tragic thing about humanity is that there are definitely 3 to 5 people who would love to squad up with Morgan. Was it who wrote this? Yeah. It's just, it's finding those connections is so hard.
It is really hard. Not to praise ourselves, but I feel like our community is pretty good. Like, a lot of people in our community want to play games, are playing games all the time, and are reasonable people that would be great at playing with you.
Yeah.
So I think that helps. But moving beyond us, I do think a tool that can be really useful, and again, it's not perfect, but Discord. There are a lot of Discords for specific games. And I feel like if you go into a Discord for a specific game, you can probably find like-minded people that want to play with you.
So let's do Destiny 2 in particular.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a Destiny 2 Discord?
I think there are many, many, many Destiny 2
Yeah,
Discords.
I have to imagine it's got to be, like, a Destiny 2 Discord would just be swamped and unreadable.
Right, but you only need 3 to 5 people, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's the other thing. I think kind of what you're hinting at brings up a good point. Like, this is true for many things in life. You got to be willing to work through some failure. And you know, and I'm not saying that Morgan isn't. He clearly is with 5 years of experience.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if you do take the Discord approach, it may be overwhelming, or you may have some bad experiences. But I think eventually that is a good tool to talk to people.
I hear you.
Because what's nice about something like Discord is, yes, you may all be there for a game, but Discord is just a place where you can go and converse, right? It's not like a message board where you're posting and they're posting and then you wait to see if they post it, or like Twitter where it's kind of like that. It's like, if you're in the Discord, you're there and you're there to talk. And so you can have a conversation with them, and you get to learn their personalities, and you can talk about things outside of the game as well, and you can find common ground. But I don't know.
Yeah, Discord's a good solution. I also understand, like, it could be a little daunting, especially like when you start at the broader levels. A lot of these like online community-driven games, though, like they didn't tend to have like layers, like layered Discords that like focus on more specific things. Once you get like to like the satellite one, and you start going like to the other ones, that will probably be more catered more to like your needs. Like, especially if you're a newcomer, that might have like newcomer Destiny Discord, specifically for like maybe you're trying to do this raid or whatever part of the game you're at. Like here is like, you know, where you need to go for this, and like people here will help you out with that if you want. Yeah, I understand like the you know, the anxiety and like, you know, the worries about going like through random matchmaking, you know, pugs and stuff like that. It's not like you're rolling the dice and you might not have the best experience, and having a bad experience early on can really dissuade you from playing what might be a great game, and a game that could offer you such great, you know, experiences with other people playing online.
Right.
One thing interesting I saw, I don't know how well it's working. Like I would strongly recommend Discord and going like maybe like a game's subreddit if it's a good subreddit, and they might have like community resources usually, like especially like 14's one has one for like new players, like where should you go and stuff, like what do you want to do, and like specifically they'll guide you. I think also a game with like servers, like they have server communities as well. But in game, like a lot of people don't want to go out of the game sometimes. Like I'm in the game, why do I need to go out of the game? Like in 2020, I think that's not unreasonable to ask someone to go outside of the game, especially like even on a console game to like meet people or something like that. Mm-hmm. But like games should try and do stuff in their own systems as well to try and encourage like community and conversations and like matchmaking stuff outside of the basics. And a lot like MMOs for the longest time have done like community posting systems and stuff, like not just like guilds and stuff like that, where you can like they finally added it to 14 after like a million years. I think it's been like WoW and other MMOs forever, where like you can go to this community tab and there'll be like communities based on like even like anything, like My Little Pony, Fire Emblem, like Nintendo, Microsoft, like find people with you like likenesses like that have the same likes as you as well as the game, and go in there, and like from there they can be like, come join us in this Discord. Like it kind of adds a bit of like a search indexing for you, so you can like more easily find a group of people you think you might be more comfortable jumping into like a Discord with before jumping into like the deep end of like the grand main Discord of a game, where it's like they can be overwhelming. All the channels and stuff, it's like, where do you even go? Yeah. They're like, even if you're not familiar with Discord, like this is like something like I feel like it's a thing they got to work in tandem with each other. Like the game should be like good communities for online games work with like the outside tools as well to make it as user friendly and to help players find what they need to find, whether it's other people to play or the information they need, and respect that like not everyone is just, it's not always going to be in your game. Yeah. Like people are going to use community tools and like work with them.
This is going to sound extremely brutal, but I think it is brutally true as well. I think the more useful you are, the easier it will be to find the best members of the community. And what I mean by that is like an MMO, for example.
Mm-hmm. If you're a healer
or a tank, you're going to be more useful because that's a rarer resource than just being another DPS. Mm-hmm. I think there's truth in that.
Yeah.
And if you are going to be a DPS, if you're a really good DPS that knows their stuff, you're going to be more valuable than somebody who's maybe not as proficient. And that's, again, anybody can do this, but even outside of like an MMO and class-based context, if you know a lot about the game and you're very committed about the game and you can give information about the game and you can help other people, helping other people is the best way to meet other people. Giving them something is going to make them want to be with you as well. So yeah, that changes from game to game, but like let's just take a Destiny raid, for example.
Yeah.
And you could argue against this, you don't want to spoil it for yourself. This is totally fine, but if you go out of your way to like learn about a raid and learn mechanics, you can be the person that is like, hey, do you want to do this with me? I can help you guys through it. I know what to do. Like that is making you like you're giving them something. Mm-hmm. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and where the question got to at the end is like if the developers should change. Like design-wise, I don't think they should. I think it's kind of cool. They have all the incentive in the world to create these things that can only be shared with 5 people. A very special moment to share with 5 people is the best possible thing for their game.
And it's fun when it's organic, right?
Yeah.
Like it sucks when you're playing a game and they're like, we'll only give you this if you play it with these people in this way. And it's like, okay. Like it's less fun. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're being tortured. Like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It all that is very good stuff. I think you need to be if you're the person going and searching for this stuff, there's a little bit on you to know what you're looking for. Like make it be communicate what you're looking for and be clear to the people you're teaming up with that like I'm a new player. I am seeking like even when you said like if you're going into like a raid type thing, some groups might prefer you to be experienced or even just know the basic knowledge of a fight or a raid or encounter up to a certain part. Some might prefer to like do it blind. Like they're totally things are like, oh, if you just don't want to be spoiled and want to do it, you need to like start learning like the terminology and stuff, like get familiar with the community and see like and know what to look for when you're seeking out groups and stuff like that. I think that'll make for a much better experience, and also being able to learn to communicate that to other players and so that they understand what you're looking for. I think you'll have a much better time because, as you said, Kyle, I like how a lot of these games can content for all levels and all skill types of players, and you will, I think, figuring like not jumping in too far into the deep end of like something that's way beyond what you should be doing and stuff, like that's obviously going to lead to a worse experience. It's figuring out where you need to start and starting with that thing and like building up from there, you know, maybe starting like an easier Destiny raid or Destiny like thing at first. I'm not as familiar with Destiny, but I'm assuming like the basics are still there. It's like do something that's not like the hardest raid dungeon first, but like go into something a little bit more simpler, work towards completing that, meet a group of people who like, oh, this is fun to do and stuff. And like, don't worry about like the light at the end of the big prize or whatever. Like you have to start somewhere and you're going to build up towards that thing. Like don't feel intimidated that there's stuff that's like out of your league and people are talking about this stuff. Like don't worry about them. Focus and find the people who are at your level and play with them and have a good time and go from there.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I think for a lot of these games, part of what makes that content so special is that not the entire player base is doing it, right? That there is some stuff for the most dedicated people. That's what it's there for. And so that can be immensely frustrating, but if you change that, then it becomes an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. I want everybody to be able to enjoy stuff. I'm not saying people should be pushed away from those things, but I also think there is a satisfaction in working really hard for something. And I'm sure you've had that with
absolutely. No, I
raids
100%,
in
100% agree with you. To speak to Kyle saying when you're addressing the last point there, I think the onus is on the developer to provide enough content to each of those categories of players.
Right.
To make sure that one group of players not feeling there's not enough things to do for that level.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have beginner level players, like you don't make any content for us anymore, like easy fights or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just making things for like the hardcore players. Like people might start leaving your game or you might have a hard time. But like at the same time, you want to make like not everything is for everyone in any of these games. There will be, I mean, for some players it is. Everything works for them. There'll be a lot of things you'll come across in a game that like you'll just never be able to do, and like that's fine. But as a game developer, ensuring that like the broadest audience has like the most content to keep them satisfied, while still giving more like niche groups something that satisfies them to keep them coming back, I think is like one of the most important things about like online games as a service, like solving that and delivering on those needs.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
I'm with you too. I think that is going to do it for episode 100 of Frame Trap.
Nice.
Thank you to my panelists, Michael Damiani and Kyle Bossman, for being on.
Sorry, we didn't get to 4 hours still.
We didn't get
this
to
wasn't
4
the
hours.
one.
We didn't get to 3 hours.
Yeah.
But sincerely, thank you for watching the show, for enjoying it, for sticking through multiple hours, multiple episodes, all of that good stuff. And yeah, hopefully there's 100 more Frame Trap episodes in us. We'll have to see. But until, no,
What?
not gonna mess this up on episode 100. If you want to send in an email askeasyallies@gmail.com. One more time, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. .com. I will not deign to forget. Until next time.